Welcome to the first episode of Conversations with My Ex, the pilot, if you will. I'm Jared.
I'm Ayesha or Aisha.
Yes, and I will say I never really knew the proper way to pronounce your name, which I did, but whenever I would just call you Ayesha. And I remember the first time I said that in front of your mom, and she's like, Aisha. And I was like, Aisha. I'm like, I'm
She does
saying
that
the
to
same thing.
everyone. She does it to everyone. She's like, it's Aisha. And the thing with me is, I feel connected to both names equally. Like my family calls me Aisha, and all my friends call me Ayesha, and like everybody in like my non-family life call me Ayesha. And Ayesha doesn't bother me because that's just a part of who I am. So it's either Aisha or Ayesha.
Yeah. And honestly, to me, most of the time that sounds exactly the same. And I know it's not,
It
but to
it's
me it
not, but
does.
it does. Yeah.
But yes, so we are exes that are remained friends. We've dated, I'm going to say 5 years. We'll round it up to about 5 years. I mean, with all the time in between, which we're going to dive into our story in this first ever episode. But the whole point of this podcast is really to remove the stigma of exes remaining friends because we know we're in a very unique position, mainly because of all the people we talk to and like, wait. You're still friends with your ex? No, you got to be still in love with each other. And that's not the case at all. So we're like, you know what? Let's talk about this stuff. I feel like we have a unique perspective, not just as friends and people who dated, but I feel like we could offer a lot on a podcast just from our dating experience with each other, the things we learned in the different backgrounds in which we grew up in, because we grew up very, very differently.
We definitely did. And I feel like we have such a unique perspective on relationships because we can both at this point openly talk about dating, openly talk about the things that happened in our relationship that we feel like we fucked up on or things that we felt like we were really good at. And I feel like it is really unique that we can talk about it openly and not feel uncomfortable because I'm not going to lie to you, in the beginning when we were freshly broken up, when we started talking about significant others and like other people in our lives, it did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable because it was so fresh. But I feel like now that it's been so many months and time that has passed, that we've really accepted the fact that we're not together anymore. We've accepted the fact that we still want to keep each other in each other's lives. So I feel like now we're just at a point where we could be completely transparent and just be open about a lot of things and not feel uncomfortable and be like, talk about a date that we went on and ask each other about, dating advice and things like that. So we just thought that Jared was the one that came up with the idea. We were literally FaceTiming, talking about some weird shit. I think like a Hinge date that one of us was on, and we were talking about sexual things, and we were just like, you were just like, yo, it's crazy that you and I can talk about this kind of stuff. Like we need to start a podcast. Like I think you just came up in your mind. I think like us not talking, you just like thought about it.
Yeah, because the idea really came to me when you mentioned, I think before I mentioned that idea to you, I think it was like a week or two before you mentioned, hey, do you know anything about starting a podcast? Because you wanted to do one with some of your friends.
Yes, I was really wanting to start a podcast with my friend Brooke, actually, because we were like, oh, we should start a podcast, like because we're long distance friends, and then I think I started talking about a podcast, and I was asking you advice about starting a podcast because you're more technologically advanced than I am, and you know more about that stuff than I do, and I asked you about an opinion, and then I think that a light bulb just lit up in your head, and you were like, yo, why don't we start a podcast? The fuck?
Yeah, because I was like, we're in such a unique position, especially how much we do still keep in contact and talk, but there's no when we talk, there's no like I feel weird that I'm talking to my ex. I don't. To me,
No.
it doesn't even feel like I'm talking to my ex. I understand that
Nope.
that's the reality, but that's not how I feel in the moment when we're having a conversation. I feel like, oh, this is my really good friend that knows pretty much everything about me, and I know everything about them. So it puts us in this unique perspective to be able to offer each other, sincere advice because we know each other so well that we can do that we can offer
I
that type
also
of
think
advice.
that too, like for a long chunk of like the end of our relationship, we were basically best friends living together at a point.
Yes.
So I also feel like that dynamic kind of just like followed through because we've always, I mean, even when we were like super in love and romantic and all of that, like I did consider you a best friend, like always.
Yeah.
And I feel like when it comes to a relationship, like, yes, it's important for your partner to be your best friend, like consider them your best friend. But I think at the same time too, it's like you do have to kind of differentiate having a best friend and a partner and a life partner.
Yes,
And I
of
feel like
course.
that was something that you and I kind of like, that gauge was a little off. And I think that's why eventually things didn't work out, because for a long time we really were just two really good best friends. And I always say this, like, I feel like you're my soulmate, like not in a romantic, sexual, passionate way. Like, you're just my life soulmate in the sense that, like, when something happens, like, I want to tell you. And like, I just feel like you would be someone who would give me really good advice, because you know my life, you know my family, you know what I've been through. So I feel like if I'm going to ask anyone for any type of advice or want to tell something about someone like significant that's happened in my life, it would be you. You'd be like the first one that comes up to my mind.
Yeah, and I would say same here. Like whenever anything cool happens in my life that I'm excited about, I always want to tell you because you know me so well, but you would also be someone who's equally excited for me as I
Yeah.
am excited for myself. And that's always nice when you have like news or something big that happened in your life that you're like, "Ooh, I want to share this with somebody." But you also want them to have a genuine reaction that's almost at the same level as yours is, because it's not fun when you tell someone they're like, "Oh, nice." You
And
know what I
especially
mean?
if it's someone that you're like dating or newly getting to know, like, they might get excited for you, but you don't genuinely know if it's like sincere. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of just like they could be just acting like they're super excited for you because they want you to feel good or whatever. But with me, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, and if it's something that you're excited about, I'm just like, all right, what, like, I will just be honest with you. Like, I feel like the honesty is there, the transparency is there. And I feel like this is a big reason why we wanted to start this podcast again, for dating advice, what we learned from our experience, to remove the stigma of exes being friends, because I have a ton of friends who just don't get it. They really don't. I have, and still to this day, I have a few of my girlfriends who are just like, you guys are still in love, this is all for show, like, you guys deep down have something. And I'm just like, you just don't get it, because
I would
they can't relate. Nobody can really relate, which is like, I understand where they're coming from, because nobody can really relate to this at all. I think I know maybe one or two people who are in good terms with their ex, but they still don't have a friendship like this.
yeah.
And I think we both also accept the fact that it's not always going to be this close, because obviously, life goes on. We're going to have new people in our lives. But like, I dated someone after we broke up, and like, it still didn't change our dynamic like crazy. Like, of course, there's boundaries that have to be set and certain things that, are going to change. But at the end of the day, like, we're always going to be friends.
It's so funny how different it is for like men and women, because none of my friends think that our friendship is like a secret love. They just go, "Oh, you're still friends? Cool." Like they just don't. You want to know what the difference is? I don't think guys care. I don't like guy friends. I mean, like if you're
They don't
dating someone,
overthink it. They don't overthink it the way girls do. Like, they have all these ideas running in their heads, like,
yeah.
what, blah, 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 blah. And guys are just like, all right, cool. Like, they're friends. Like,
The only
whatever.
question guy friends have is, "Oh, do you guys still like hook up?" And it's like, "No, we don't. We
We
never
really
have
don't.
outside of our
Like,
relationship."
this is really weird to say, but we can sleep in the same bed together. And we have, and literally just sleep as if it's like a slumber party with my girl, like
Yeah,
with my friend.
yeah. No physical contact whatsoever. Just
Nothing. Nothing.
it's just so funny because my
It
friends
is
will
fun.
ask that, like, "Oh, do you guys hook up?" And I'll be like, "No, we've actually never hooked up outside of dating each other, never
Nope.
once." So that's
Nope.
why it's so funny to me when you say like, "Oh, my friends are like your friends are saying like, oh, this is just a front. You're still in love. It's like this secret thing." But my rebuttal to that would be like, "Why would we go through all this trouble just to throw everyone off? We would
And
just,
like, if we would be together if we knew that it was right. Like,
yeah,
we would be
exactly,
together. We're very honest with each other. We know, like, we would be together. There's no reason for us not to be together if we were still, you know what I mean? But we just know that it's just, we're not meant to be together in that way.
yeah,
And it's funny because I've told a ton of my friends, like, I see Jared at my wedding. Like,
oh yeah,
Jared will be getting an invitation to my wedding, like him and his family. Like, it's just, that's how I see it. And they're just like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Like, they give me the craziest looks. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, but like, he's just as important as all my other friends?
yeah, and I can understand to an extent where people are coming from on the other side of that.
I totally get it.
It just doesn't seem so crazy to me because we're in it, right? For you and
And it
I, it's so normal.
and it would be different, I feel, if we ended in a way that was bad, like if one of us cheated on each other, if someone really, deceived the other, but like, which is, I think, 70% of the time when people break up, that's the
I
situation,
would say more.
right?
Oh yeah,
Y-
it's probably like 80,
mutual
90.
mutual breakups like this don't happen often, which is sad. I think it is sad because I feel like you just oh, like you lose interest in each other and then someone has to cheat in order for it to end, or someone has to do something really fucked up for you to finally make that decision like, all right, let's end this.
That's a good point though that you just
Right?
made. Where you're right, people lose interest, and instead of admitting that they lost interest, they just go cheat instead of
To
being like,
find an
"Hey,
excuse.
yeah, hey, this doesn't work anymore," and just being like, "Oh, okay, you're right, it doesn't work anymore. Let's go
Like,
do something else." Which actually, I think that this is like a perfect segue into the whole premise of this pilot episode, if you will, which is basically this whole story of our relationship. You know, how we met and how everything eventually ended to where we are right now. But do you
should we get
have?
into
Yeah, let's
it?
get into it. I know I just kind of like cut you off there. Once again, this is our first time doing a podcast, so it may be a little rocky at times.
Yes, this is a trial run. This is actually our second go at it. The first time we did it together, Jared came down to Connecticut and we were like, all right, let's start this. But like we were too excited about it because we both know we're both procrastinators. So we both
Oh,
knew
big
that we
time.
could talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. But if we don't actually just like make action and do it, it's never gonna happen. So we were really excited. And I hadn't seen Jared in a really long time. So I was like, you should come to Connecticut, come to my place, and we'll just do the podcast. And he had his little gaming microphone because we didn't have time to order microphones or do anything like that. It was very much spur of the moment.
Yeah.
So we did do an episode and we went back and heard it. And like also, just to warn everyone, if you do hear little, rattling in my end, I have a 10-month-old puppy and he's the bane of my existence right now. So he is in the background. And if you hear a little bit of that raggedy-ish in the background, then that's him. But it's much better now that I have a proper microphone. Jared has a proper microphone. We've got a good situation now. But yeah, we did do a trial run and we thought that was going to be the one, but we went back and we were like, we want this to be really good. Like we want our first episode to be, the best that it can possibly be.
Yeah. For lack of a better word, the audio on the first go around was dog shit.
Shit. Literally because of the dog,
Yeah.
majority of the
Well, it wasn't just that. It was like a crazy echo on the mic. It just which it is a shame because we did have such a nice conversation and it flowed very well, but it's almost like we're a little more seasoned now, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
that
hey,
was
this
like
is
a
our
rough
first go.
draft. That
Yeah.
was a rough draft.
We had two preseason games, and now we're cooking. Now we're in the regular season. We're ready to start
We're
the record.
seasoned.
Sports
We're
reference
seasoned.
for all them.
That was like
out there.
salt and pepper, and now we got like some Cajun in us. We got some Italian zest. We're seasoned.
Sure. I like that.
All right, so let's get into how we met. So this was 2017, December of 2017 when we met. And
when we met, yes.
Yes, when we met.
Yep.
And I had moved to Providence, Rhode Island. I'm from Connecticut.
Jared is from Rhode Island. We didn't cover that, but we do live at this moment in time about 2.5 hour drive from each other. So that's why we're doing it remotely.
And I turned, if anybody's interested in like our age, I turned 27 in June.
And I turned 30 in May. The big
Woo!
dirty 30. Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, sure. We'll see.
Ching!
I'm going to do everything I can to make it a good 10
Your
years.
life starts in your 30s. Sorry if I'm screaming. I feel like the good things truly start in your 30s. So I'm actually very excited for you.
Oh, I'm excited as well. I think I spent a long period of time being like, I'm not so sure about this. But I looked at the last decade of my life, which I do think that everybody's life moves at a different speed, and that's totally okay. Like, never judge yourself for where you're at in life because you're figuring shit out, and everybody moves at a different speed, and some people get opportunities a little bit earlier in life than other people, and some people settle down a little bit earlier. But I honestly believe that your 20s, from 20 to 30, that decade, all learning. It's all about figuring yourself out. And I mean,
it's the pregame. It's the
100%.
pregame to the rager.
100%. Learned a lot. Don't regret anything. So we're good.
Good. So yeah. So I'm 20. I turned 27. He turns 30. So we only have a 3-year age gap. And wow, that was quick math. I'm horrible at math.
You are bad at math, but that was pretty good.
So I moved to Providence for school. I went to Johnson & Wales University, so I was living right in the heart of Providence. And I had just newly got into the online dating. So at this time, online dating was very fresh. Tinder, it was only Tinder at that time. I don't even think Bumble or Hinge or any of that was.
Yeah, I Hinge definitely came around in the last couple of years, at least in my knowledge, anyways.
Yeah,
It was just Tinder, and in the landscape of Tinder, I think was way different then. I don't think it was just like, "Hey, I'm
trying to
here to fuck"
fuck.
app. I think it
Yeah,
was like, but I'm not even sure people used. I still think people used it that way, but I think it was like a little bit more
the
genuine
odds
then.
were better in your
A
favor
little
to
bit more
find.
genuine then, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then that was around the time where right before that, I think what really started this trend, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was that thing on Facebook, the Hot or Not, which was terrible.
disgusting.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was like the first thing that started it all, and then it came with Tinder after that, as far as I know.
So I downloaded Tinder. I mean, I had never been in a serious relationship. Jared had been.
Kind of.
I had never been in a serious relationship, not even in like, of course I had like a high school fling. I've had flings, but like I've never had someone actually be my girlfriend. Like that has never been a thing for me. And so I downloaded the app, like not with intentions of finding someone, but I think deep down in the back of my mind, like I always wanted to have a boyfriend and be able to experience that and be in love. And so I downloaded the app and I had dated a few people previously, nothing serious. And then I met Jared. And this was on Tinder. And I don't remember if I think you hearted me and then I
It doesn't
accepted the
work that
heart.
way.
It doesn't work that way? I
No,
don't remember.
Tinder, you
See,
both got a match. So you
okay,
must have,
and then
you had to like what
okay.
you saw too. It's a blind match.
Okay, so I actually like that a little bit more
Yeah.
because it's okay. See,
What we,
it's been so long that I've been on Tinder, I don't
whoa,
even
whoa, whoa,
remember
whoa,
how it
whoa.
works.
Pause, 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 pause. What are you trying to, you're basically saying like, you were saying like, you're the hot commodity. I gave
Yeah.
this dude a chance versus like, yo, come on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Okay,
just
so it
tried
was
to,
a
you just tried
so
to
it was
dunk on me
shut
for no,
up.
yeah, you did.
So it was a mutual attraction. And I totally remember how I reacted to your page. I was like, this guy is so cute. I love his name. I still love your name so much. Jared is just such a good name. And you had really cool like professional pictures like because you I
Did
think you
I?
had just yeah because you had just gone into photography at this time. You had like two really cool pictures of you that were like really dope photos. They were like professionally taken. There were ones with like you with like something in your hand, like a camera or something in your hand. You don't remember what pictures you had on Tinder?
Oh, no, I don't, but I know what photo you're talking about now that you're
Yeah,
describing it.
and then there was ones with like you with like a backpack on, like
Those
you
were
like
all from the Boundless days. Those were all
yeah.
taken of me while I was on those shoots, which
And
we'll cover
Boundless
at
is
another point.
yeah, that's a clothing line that him
Was a
and his
clothing
friends
line.
started.
It transformed into
Was
something different. We can get into that at a
Boundless
different time.
still exists in my heart.
It's still a YouTube page, Boundless RI, on YouTube if you want to check it out. Pretty cool
So I
videos.
was really intrigued by his profile and his looks. He's a very attractive man. And we just started getting into conversation. And I tried to download Tinder again and try to find our exact conversation because I remember about 2 years ago, I went back into Tinder and I found our conversation.
See, this is
So
what's crazy is I don't even remember what the fuck we talked about.
I
I'm
remember
surprised you do because you don't
I
remember
do.
much, but you
I
remember
know.
that.
I do. I
Means I made an
remember
impact.
we were having small talk, and then I remember I made a joke like, "Oh, he went to Jared," or said something really corny like that. But we were very smart in the sense that we got to get to know each other for a little while. Like we were back and forth on Snapchat and texting. We didn't FaceTime though,
No,
but
which
we
is
were
which is really weird with the amount that you FaceTime
yeah,
everybody in your life.
yeah. I
Like an
mean,
absurd
big
amount.
time.
Because I do
Yeah,
remember when I first met you and everybody that you talked to, instead of like texting them or on the phone, you would
there are no phone
FaceTime
calls.
everybody. And I was like,
No phone calls.
what in
Till
the
this
world?
day, till this day, the only reason why I'll call someone instead of FaceTime is if like I know I have bad service or like my parents, like I won't FaceTime as much. But like if I'm calling my girls or whoever, I'm FaceTiming.
It's so funny how different the landscape is because I won't even call my friends unless it's like I need an
Emergency.
answer to something immediately. Because it's like they'll look at it the same way I look at it. If someone's calling me, I go, "What the fuck? Why are they calling me?"
I
It's so
also
weird
think
how
that
texting fucked all that all up.
guy friends don't like talk like that on the phone or even FaceTime like
Never.
that. Like you guys just like see each other and it's whatever. Like girls,
Oh,
like I
my
feel
other
like
rebuttal to that would be we game too. So gaming is kind of like if we are gaming with a
okay,
friend, it's like an extended phone call because you're chatting with
that's
each other.
true. That's
You're
true. You
shooting
guys
the
do have
shit
your
at the
gaming.
same time, but
Yeah.
also we get together for beers like once a week, maybe more. So it's not like
Yeah.
the
I
fuck
think
we
the
gotta call people
dynamic's
for.
just different. So We
It's
chatted it
memes, all
up.
memes.
We chatted up. We Snapchatted each other, so we knew that we both weren't catfishes. We were very well aware that we were, we looked like how we looked on the profile.
Yes,
And then I did something very irresponsible.
you did. I'm still wondering why this was the initial
Well,
decision.
because at that time you didn't really come to Providence often. So Jared comes from
No,
a small town about 30 minutes away from Providence, going up north, correct?
north. Yep, I'm on the
And
border of Massachusetts and Connecticut, so I'm on
so
the.
Jared, so I understand you definitely should have made the effort to come see me, or at least meet me halfway. But you didn't come to Providence enough, so I feel like you weren't too
I remember
comfortable
the
coming to
conversation
Providence.
that led to this
What?
vaguely. So I remember we were Snapchatting, but I remember those 2 weeks. Let me preface this because I just remember this now. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was um I was in a point in my life where I wasn't really going out as much, so I was going to bed
Hmm.
relatively early. Plus, I used to start work at 6 a.m., so I used to go to bed relatively early. But I remember we were Snapchatting, and I think I was laying in bed, and in that flirty fashion, I remember something came up about like cuddling. Right, that's always like the flirty thing that comes up, and I remember like in exchange being like you saying like, "Oh, can't right now" or something, but next Saturday I can, or something like that. And then that's why we met the way that we did.
So the way that we met was I had a dope roommate. She still is a dope person. We just don't really talk right now.
Yeah,
But
she's just not your roommate anymore.
she's just not my roommate anymore. But she was dope. Like very cool girl. Like loved to go out. Was very generous with her things. And I just remember that I mentioned to her like about Jared, and that like I was saying like I want to really want to meet this guy. Like I'm not sure how it's gonna happen, but and she was like, if you need to go anywhere, like you can take my car. And I was just like, seriously? And like she drives a really nice car. She drives the model.
Yeah, it was an well, I don't know if she still drives it, but it was an Audi A7.
Really nice car. Like really, really nice car. And I was like, are you sure? She was like, anywhere you want to go, if you're going out to dinner, if you're going to his place, like the car is yours and you can have it for the whole night. She was like, I just need it by she was like, I need it by the next day, but like later in the afternoon. So I
Yeah,
was like,
because yeah,
it was like a free for all for me.
yeah.
So for some reason, I decided to drive in the middle of Bumblefuck, Rhode Island to his house where I could have easily been murdered, raped.
But none of this crossed your mind or mine.
None of it crossed my mind because I just feel like, and I feel like if it was anybody else, I would have thought differently. I just feel like something about you, like we were just so comfortable. Like it was just, there was no sketch vibes at all. There were
Right.
no shady vibes at
They have
all.
that effect on people.
Yeah, this is when you're gonna fucking kill me now.
Yeah.
You wait 6 years, 5 years later.
Yeah, you play the long game.
So I hauled my ass, and I just remember too, like I remember leaving Providence, and I remember like getting I was like 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm like, where the fuck am I going? Because like I didn't realize like
Middle of
where like
nowhere.
that you were literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was expecting like an outskirt of Providence, like like a cute little town. No, my guy was in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I will say that you thought that because of where you grew up, and
yeah,
it's different,
yeah.
right? Rhode Island's so small that like 30 minutes from where you live would be like right outside the city, but like 30 minutes here,
Yeah, like North Stanford to
you can
me,
get
like
through like 90% of the state in 30 minutes.
hmm. So yeah, so I hold my ass over there, and I get there. I park, and I think I knew that you were living with your parents at the time. I knew that like I was going
Oh,
to.
yeah.
I don't right. Yeah, you told me that you were living
Mhm.
with your parents, but like you had a dope basement situation. It was very private. So I get there. And I remember meeting you for the first time. I remember you coming from like that little side.
Yeah, up in the
And
driveway.
and you came out and we said hi. And like, I know that I was nervous, but it just never felt awkward.
Yeah, see, I was worried that it was going to, but then it didn't. Because I remember that you got out of the car, we said hello, we hugged, and then
And you
like,
saw how beautiful this Mami Chula was.
yeah. I don't know if I would have used those words exactly, a mommy chulo, but yeah.
I think we both found each other very good looking. So I also think
Yes.
that
Yeah.
helped.
Oh, 100%. I actually thought you were
And
better looking than you were in your photos, if I'm being honest
oh,
at the time. Yeah.
thanks. So at the time, fuck you.
Well, I don't mean that. Like, you know what I mean.
So I don't look as good as my photos
No, I'm
now.
talking about like
The filters are way more effective now.
No, I'm saying genuinely that was my thought at the time.
Yeah.
Was like, oh wow, she looks better than her photos. I'm
So
not
you
saying, yeah, you know what I mean.
led me. I know I'm fucking with you. So you led me downstairs. I went through the back door, and I just remember thinking like how nice the
Sounds
house
so
was.
weird. We
I
went through
know,
the
but it
back
wasn't.
door.
We went through the back door because his house. So he lives with his parents, and it's a big house, but he has a private entrance. So you have to go through the back and go through the back door to get to the entrance. So that's what I did, and I walk in, and his dog starts freaking out. And so I literally look up at the top of the staircase, and it's his mom, and we can crop that out. So I just remember looking up the stairs, and it's his mom with Lexi, trying to control Lexi. Like I know that this
Lexi's
wasn't
my
planned.
dog.
I know that like I wasn't meant to meet her that night, but I did meet
No,
his
and
mom.
she knew you were coming, so she was being very nosy. She knew that she was going to see you when she looked down the stairs.
Jared's mom is definitely a nosy one.
She knew what game she was playing. She knew what she was doing.
She wanted to get a good look at this Ayesha girl. She was like, Ayesha. She was like,
But I'm going to be honest. I'm not even sure if I told them your name. I'm not even sure.
There's no Ayeshas in where we're from.
Yeah, I don't believe that I told them what your name was.
No, you probably didn't. But she was nice. She gave me a little wave. I gave her a little wave, and that was it. Like, it wasn't like a conversation or anything. It was just like a hi, bye, goodbye.
Nightmare fuel, honestly, really. That's not what you want to walk in and see, really. It's not.
No, but it didn't bother me. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, this is weird. Like, it just didn't faze me at all.
I know this is a little off topic, but do you remember the first time you actually met my parents?
No. I genuinely don't.
I don't either. I remember the first time I met your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met them, but I don't remember the first time.
Occasions. Yeah, I don't. Because I feel like because everything happened so quickly with us that once we did start dating, that it was just like they were just always there. Especially
I just don't remember
since you
that
lived with them.
Yeah, but I still don't remember the introduction.
I don't either. I just always remember them being super welcoming.
I'll have to ask them. I wonder if they know.
They probably don't, but
yeah, probably not.
So we go into the basement, and so leading into this, Jared was asking me, like, because we both like to drink, and so he was asking me. He was asking me, did you want to drink something like when you came over? And I was like, I'm really into wine. If you're into wine, and at the time he played it off as if he was cool with wine, that he's a wine drinker, whatever. But deep down,
I wasn't losing points. I wasn't losing points right off the rip. Nuh-uh, not me.
So he acted as if he liked it, but in reality, this motherfucker didn't even like wine at the time.
I will say this though, I've grown quite the palate for.
Of course.
Many different liquors, wine, all sorts of whiskey, all sorts of stuff. I love it.
Yeah, you and I definitely, though, were on a deep wine kick in our beginning of our relationship. So I was like, let's do wine. And he was like, okay, like, what kind of wine do you want? And I was just like, at that point, I was very into red wine. And I was like, red wine if you're cool with purple lips. And Jared took that literally.
I certainly did. And so I thought, you want me? I don't want to cut you off. Okay.
No, you could say it.
So I thought she meant like Purple Lips was like a brand of wine. Like that's what I thought because I didn't know anything about wine at the time.
That's how much of an amateur he was.
Yeah. So I was like, Purple Lips, okay. Like sounds reasonable. Must be a brand of wine. So I went to the liquor store that's near my house, which they carry a variety of stuff, but their selection of wine isn't all that expansive because I don't think a lot of people around here drink a lot of wine. So I went in there, I was looking on the shelves, and I'm like, I don't see it. But by the way that you said it, like if you don't mind Purple Lips, like in my head, that was like, oh, it must be a pretty common brand of wine because she's assuming that I know what it is. So I go up to the counter and I ask the guy, I said, hey, do you have a wine called Purple Lips? And he goes, no, never heard of it. It's a pretty good name for a wine, though. I was like,
it's a great name for a wine. And we decided that if, things get moving on this and we want to, I feel like even when we were dating, we always were into wine and wanted to like eventually maybe have a wine one day. Yeah. We are going to have a wine called Purple Lips.
Purple Lips. 100%. That's the name. It's got to be a red.
But I just thought that it was so sweet and innocent and cute. And I remember when you told me that you did that, I could not stop laughing. I thought it was the funniest, sweetest thing ever that you went into the liquor store and you asked the guy, "Do you have purple lips?"
I'm just glad
And
the guy didn't think I was an idiot.
and so they didn't have purple lips, but they did have a wine which Jared is actually drinking at the moment.
Nah, it doesn't matter. You can see how much it was. For those of you watching, because I know some of you are just listening on audio, I am currently showing this bottle of wine. It is Elouan, which is a Oregon Pinot Noir, which actually I've come to learn that Oregon makes really good Pinots. But at the time, I remember when we first started drinking this, I did not like it at all. Like,
but
I choked that bitch down for sure.
This is the exact wine that we drank the first night we met. I tried finding it at my liquor store, but I couldn't.
It's a lie. It's not the exact wine because this is 2019. So this is like a newer, same brand, and it's just a different year. What can you do? You get what you can get.
And I am more of a white wine drinker now. That's why I'm drinking white wine.
You totally switched sides on me.
But I thought that was the cutest story. And I definitely am going to nobody steal that name. We should probably maybe patent that name before this podcast goes out because someone will definitely steal that name. It's a great name for wine. Purple Lips. It really is. Even though wouldn't it be red lips? No, it's purple lips.
Purple lips. And you want to know what? Turn purple. Not only just for a wine. What a great name for like a wine blog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, welcome.
Do you remember when we started a YouTube channel? What was it called?
Fine Time,
Fine Wine.
It probably still exists. Please don't search it, but it probably still exists. I don't think we ever deleted that.
So back to what we were talking about. So we had the red wine. He acted like he liked it, but he clearly didn't. But he definitely had a great poker face because I could not tell at all. I was loving it. I was like, this is great. And
I am a man of acquired taste, though. So
yeah. I just remember us getting into conversation and just really getting in depth and getting to know each other. And like, there was definitely a cute banter and flirting, and it was a nice back and forth. It wasn't just one person talking. It was both of us talking.
Yes.
And it was just a really nice night. It was a very cute, romantic night. I remember our first kiss underneath the stars.
Yes, but we also tell about how we ended up at that point. Do you remember?
Because we went and we smoked.
We went and we smoked.
Tisk tisk. Tisk tisk. In my roommate's car because she smoked in her car all the time. Jared was a little weary of that, but
I was. Cool. I was a little new to smoking at the time. Well, not really.
He wasn't.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
You were smoking, and because I remember that was something we connected on. You asked me too if I was a smoker, and I was like, I am.
But I would only smoke with people like my friends who smoke. Like that, I've never smoked alone at that point. Like never in my life. It wasn't until like probably 6 months into dating that I ever like smoked by myself. Like I used to never do that ever. I used to only because I would never buy it. So like I was such an like I would smoke with my friends that would smoke. But I was such a noob when it came to it that if you asked me, like, if you didn't hand me something, I didn't know what to do.
You were a social smoker.
Yes.
You were a social smoker at that time. And I had not been a social smoker for a while because I had been smoking for a few years prior to that. But anyways, we smoked. So we were definitely high. And I remember I parked the car up in the back or something. Tell them what your dad said when he saw the car.
This might be fast forwarding a little bit because this was I don't remember. Was this the night of or was this the next day?
You tell me. He texted you, not me.
I know. I just don't remember the time that the text came in. But he asked about the car because my dad is one of those people who, if you say anything, he's going to look it up. So sure enough, he's like, oh, an Audi. Looks it up. Hey, you know that car's worth like $100,000? I was like, yeah, it's a nice car. Ask her if we can take it for a spin, he says. Obviously joking. It's like my dad's sense of humor, but
yeah, Jared's dad is a really funny guy. Love them.
But that's
But so we were coming back inside from smoking.
Yes, that's
and we were literally.
Is that the first time we kissed, or did we kiss beforehand?
No,
I think we kissed.
That was the first. No, we didn't.
We didn't.
No, we didn't. That was the first time we kissed. we were walking, and I remember like we were right about to walk in, and we turned around and we look at the stars because the stars are beautiful where
Yeah,
Jared's from.
you're used to city life where you don't really see them.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I think like those were one of the nicest stars that I've
Nice
seen
clear night. Yeah,
ever.
cold though.
And we kissed, and I don't remember who kissed who. I'm pretty sure you probably kissed me, but
I
I
think
think it
it's
was
like
very
it's
much
usually
like
like
a
a seventy
mutual. Yeah,
thirty, right? You don't just go all
yeah,
the way in. If I went 100%, then you're not coming back, right? If I went
yeah.
100%, you're like, geez, you just meet me here. It's like, no, you can't do that.
But it was a nice kiss. It was a
It's got to be
long
70-30.
kiss. There was stars. It was a very romantic first kiss. It was a very nice first kiss for sure. I'll never forget that. And then we went inside and we just continued like talking and kissing, and I did spend the night.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have sex. We did
We
other
did not.
things.
Yeah,
But,
things.
but we didn't have sex.
No sex.
And that wasn't the intention. That
We're
was
respectable.
we both knew that. We both knew that that wasn't the intention.
Yeah, no, that definitely wasn't my intent. Which is so weird because you would think like, hey, you're coming to spend the night at my house. Like the
I
last
think
thing on my mind
re-
was I'm gonna get some. That was the last thing on my mind, to be
we just
honest.
really wanted to meet each other. I
Yeah.
think we just really wanted to meet each other. We really wanted to hang out, and that was just how it ended up happening. And I'm just trying to think of anything else memorable from that night other than I
No.
think that was really the gist of it. And then
Yeah.
and then we slept in. And I remember this. You had a shitty ass mattress, like an inflatable mattress at the
Yeah.
time. And Jared has a Dane Lab mix. She's a big girl. She's a big
She weighs like
dog.
90 pounds.
And he was just
She
like,
sleeps
oh,
in the
look,
bed.
that, yeah, every night. And
I'm kind of a
that
dick
was,
for this, actually, now that I think about
I
it.
was sleeping. So I think you mentioned like that was her side or whatever. And I was on the side that like deflated.
So
So the whole night, because I also Lexi was always a sweetheart. So I also didn't want to because she was so cute. She had slept on my leg the entire night. So my leg was asleep the whole night. And then I literally woke up to I was like in a deflated air mattress. That's what it felt like when I woke up.
yeah, you're like in the trench on the side of the highway for drainage.
Yeah. And you were like all
I'm
inflated
such
on your
a
end.
dick for this. And it's funny because I didn't realize it at the time because I was just like, yeah, this is my side, right? I didn't even think about it. So it was one of those like old school sleep numbers where the air inflated and you basically chose your pressure. So I had both sides on max, but one side would deflate into like a ravine almost.
It
Might
it
as
was,
well be a ravine.
It felt like an air mattress half deflated. That's what it felt like for sure.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
You get in a
Lexi, but it was
crevice.
cute. It didn't bother me because like Lexi was just so cute, and like I liked that his dog was into me and was sleeping on me, but like her fat ass was on my leg all night. But
We didn't even
woke
leave
up,
bed till like 3 o'clock the next afternoon.
yeah,
either.
we were in bed all day, just.
And what's
hanging
crazy is we
out.
were just talking. Like we weren't doing
Yeah.
anything other than talking. That's it.
Mhm.
And I remember
And
this part, and I'm going to tell this from my point of view.
okay,
I don't remember how long into the day this was, but I remember I was thinking to myself two things. One, this whole time she's been here, I have yet to address her by her name. Now, I know her name's Ayesha, and that's how I think I say it, but I'm like, never encountered anyone with this name before. Is that how you actually pronounce it? And I thought, I'm in too deep now to be like, how do you pronounce your name? I can't just ask you. We just spent the night together. How am I supposed to be like, hey, by the way, how do you pronounce your name? I'm like, we're in too deep for that now. So I thought of something clever. I was like, how can we be clever?
you thought it was clever.
No, I think it was pretty clever. I was like, I'll ask if she has a nickname that'll give me a hint to how you pronounce her name. So I said, hey, do you have a nickname? Like, does any of your friends like call you by a nickname or anything like that? And she said no. And on the fly, and when I asked if you had a nickname, this was not in my head. This was completely on the fly because I didn't know what to say next. And I just said, also ill-advised moving forward. But I was like, she's like, no, I don't have a nickname. I said, well, what if I call you my girlfriend? And I was like, I thought at the time, I'm like, smooth. Like,
Smooth
good work, dude.
operator.
Good work, dude. I was like, yeah. Because I will say this. It's so weird asking somebody out, albeit Probably too soon to do so, more than likely too soon to do so. In fact, if someone asked me advice, I would say, hey, don't do that. It worked out for us.
We didn't even know each other we didn't even meet each other for 24 hours. We
Yeah,
did know each other for
we
more
did
than
know
that,
each other.
but
Well, know each other. I mean, how much do you really know
yeah.
someone from that little interaction? Um, but what was going through my head was I've had such a great time with her. How do I? This sounds terrible, but I'm like, how do I make sure that we have to hang out again?
How do I
And I say,
trap
hey, if
her?
she's my girlfriend, she has to hang out with me.
She can't
She
escape.
can't like be like, I'm your girlfriend, but I'm never gonna see you again. And
But the thing with me that it wasn't like, yes, it was definitely too soon. It was definitely like caught me off guard. But like I got it because I knew that like our connection was definitely special. And I didn't say no. I didn't say fully yes. I was like, I would love to be your girlfriend. I was like, I definitely do think that we need to get to know each other a little bit more.
yeah.
But I didn't say no.
But in my defense, I will say it's elementary to like ask someone out like ordinarily, right? To just be like, will you be my girlfriend? Like that sounds terrible.
I
And
mean, it's definitely a good story that we've told many, many people.
I honestly think on the fly, that was pretty creative way to ask someone out, right? Am I wrong there? That seemed like a
Don't do it, people.
it's not
Don't
like
do
it
it.
wasn't like a generic will you be my girlfriend? It was like, do you have a
Great now.
nickname? No. How about I call you my girlfriend? Boom. Smooth. I thought it was smooth at the time. I don't know what to say. Worked out fine.
So it was history from
Unless you're
there.
counting the fact that we're exes now, then I guess it didn't really work out fine. But it worked out fine for a while.
It worked out fine for like a good 4 years. 4 years.
Yeah, give or take
Before,
4 or 5 years ish,
yeah,
give or take
ish.
ish.
But so yeah, and then from there we just started dating, and it became him coming to my dorm and me coming to him on the weekends. I was at his house every weekend,
Yeah,
and he would come and spend some nights with me because I at that time I was in culinary school, so I had labs which lasted all day long, and he was working. He had a job at the time too, so we would just kind of like try to mesh our schedules together, and like I would stay the weekend with him, then he would spend a few nights in the dorm, but then we would like I just remember like we were always so sad when we left each other. We'd always be like, why do we have to leave?
the other thing that always bummed me out is because at the time I hated my job so much,
Yeah,
and
you really did.
I only saw you on weekends. So like when it was so devastating to me because my weekends were so fun that it was like a
Yeah,
roller coaster of emotions. Because like when I was hanging out with you, I was on like such a high, and then I hated my job so much that I knew that me dropping you back off at school equaled work
a
week,
whole week with
a
yeah.
whole week of shit work that I don't want to do, and
Hmm.
it would always just be like, fuck, I don't want to do this. So it was always like emotional high, emotional high, emotional high, kicking the dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the time, anyways. But and then when summer happened, you would go back home. I came to
Yeah,
Stanford for
so
the
we
first
were
time.
long distance, and this was crazy to think about, and I'm surprised that we like made it work like that. But we were long distance. It was only one summer though, or was it 2 summers? I think it was only
Um,
one summer.
was it
It
only
was
one
only
summer?
one full summer that we were like, because then after that I moved in with you.
No, it had to have been longer than that.
You think?
100%.
I'm just gonna hold him because yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was just that one summer. But it was crazy because we were long distance, but he would come to Connecticut to see me. Was it on the weekends? Not every weekend, but you would
No,
come
well,
see
no, because
me.
I worked Tuesday through Saturday, so I would usually head down there on like a Saturday afternoon, and then
Mm,
leave like midday on a Monday or something.
yep.
Wasn't ideal, but we made that work. And
We
then
made it work. We
when you
definitely made it
finished
work.
school, that's when you came and lived with me
Yeah,
here.
that's when I decided to come because I had a job at the time um, in Providence that I wanted to keep after graduation. And it just worked out that way.
Do you remember the day we had to move you out of your dorm and I had like my sedan?
Yo, it was on his birthday. It was
Oh, that
on
was on my
Jared's
birthday. That's how I
birthday.
spent my birthday, stuffing my car with her
we
shit.
had a good we had a good night. We went out to dinner. I think we went to no, I don't think we went to Dave and Buster's, but we went out
No,
to we went out to dinner.
we
But I
did.
remember you helped me move my entire dorm into
Dude,
your little sedan.
dude. I could not see out any window
I
except
know.
the
Probably gave
front
him
window
such anxiety.
And the front two side windows, like the driver and the passenger window, like my rear view mirror, useless. Things were stacked. You couldn't even sit comfortably in the front seat. You were like a contortionist with all the shit that was in there. It was unbelievable that we got it all in there. It was crazy.
We made it happen though, and Jared was very helpful and always a big support. And so I moved in with him in his parents' basement, and his parents' basement is basically a studio apartment without a kitchen. You have your private entrance; it's a big space, own bathroom.
Yep.
You definitely didn't feel like you were on top of each other. The only thing that got annoying was like the kitchen and having to share it with his
Yeah.
family. But like his family was always amazing to me.
Yeah,
And
they
I
don't give
never
a shit.
felt
They're like,
they don't give a shit. They're
come do
very
what you want. Oh,
welcoming.
and laundry.
They
We had to
cook,
do laundry up here too. Up
which
there too. But
still didn't feel like, and Jared's parents would feed us, and like whenever they made something, they made sure that we had food. And then we started cooking, and your mom probably started getting annoying that her kitchen started smelling like garlic and actual spices other than salt and pepper, which she was used to, not even pepper for her. That's one thing I think definitely started bothering her, because when I started cooking, it's like garlic and shallots and curry and spices. And she's
it
like, oh my
actually,
God.
the smell of garlic bothers my dad more than anybody. But he
But so I
hates
moved
garlic.
in with him, and we completely turned his space down there. We moved things
Yeah, it
around. We
was
made it
nice.
into it was really nice. It
And right
was
before
very
you moved
nice.
in, I ended up buying like a couch and things like. So
Hmm.
we had furniture,
It
so
was
it
a
wasn't
really
like
nice situation
yeah.
down there. But then we got to a point after COVID hit,
It was mid
co-
COVID. It was
when
June or
we were
July
just
of 2020.
when we decided to start looking for places.
Well, no, that's when we moved into a place. I don't know
Yeah.
when we
So
started looking, but that's when we moved into a place.
I remember that, like, being quarantined at home, because so Jared never had to leave work. I was completely
Oh
on
yeah, that's
unemployment.
right. You had to sit at
The
home.
restaurant shut down, and Jared's mom also was home. So
Was
me
she
and her
working from home at that time?
she was working from home. Yeah, she was working from home.
Okay.
She was working from home. And I just had, yeah, I was fully quarantined on unemployment. I just remember you were just waiting and waiting and waiting every day for you to get that phone call like, all right, you're not going to have to come into work.
I mean, it's
And
probably better that I didn't.
you never got that phone call.
Never.
Yeah, it's better that you didn't, but I know you were bummed out about
Yeah,
it.
because you were making more money sitting on your ass here than I was making going into work every day. It was kind of pissing me off a bit.
But I was lonely. Like, I wish I got quarantined with you, because, like, not that, like, Jared's mom, but, like, she was working from home. I was in the basement. Like,
Yeah, but you slept till noon every day.
I slept till noon. I took care of the dogs. I went on walks. I exercised a lot. I was in decent shape at that time. Like, I was moving around a lot. But the only bad thing about that was we were drinking a lot.
Yeah, you
We were
get
drinking
bored.
a lot during quarantine, the both of us.
Oh yeah.
So, decided to get our own place. I was the one that really was deep diving in on where we should go. And then we found a place that was perfect. It was a 2-bedroom for $1,500. You can't beat that, man.
So
And
much
it was
space.
so much space.
The only
It
thing
was a
that was a
really,
bummer there was the kitchen was a little small, but other than that, it wasn't that bad.
and it was a little outdated, but it was perfect for like your first apartment.
Yeah, it was a little outdated.
With our
But
income,
the furniture's fine. Once you add furniture to it, you can make anything look a little
yeah.
spruced up.
So we were there, and everything was really good. I was working, you were working, you liked your job. We were just in a good place. And then we went on a trip.
Yep.
And then we came back from that trip, and things kind of just changed. I think that, I mean, we were at a point where intimacy was very low.
Yes.
And a big reason for that was because we did have opposite schedules. And I think that was a big reason why that started, was because we did have opposite schedules.
You were at work when I would get home, and then you would get
Exactly.
home at like
Yeah.
1 a.m. and I'd be in bed. So it's like it threw a lot of stuff off because working in the restaurant industry, your days off weren't the same as mine either. You weren't always getting
No.
Saturdays and Sundays off. So
No,
that
those are my
does put a
busy
strain
days.
on a relationship pretty severely, actually.
I think that was a really big reason why things started falling apart for us, was because we were on 2 completely different schedules. And it's like intimacy was tough because I came home and he was sleeping. And then I'd be like up and awake because after you work a shift, and like I would grab drinks with friends afterwards, and I'd come home and just be up, and he's knocked out. And then and then Jared has always been a morning person, and I never have been a morning person. So, and especially coming home late, then we wouldn't really, and Jared likes to get up early and have a routine and have coffee together and talk and all that. And it didn't work out that way. And then I also got to a point where I started getting really homesick. I started getting really, really, and it hit me because I never really felt all that home. Like I did, especially living in your hometown because it was
Yeah.
so
It's so
different from my
different.
hometown.
Very different.
But it's crazy because I felt more homesick moving into our new place, and that was a town that was a little more similar to my like it was a more upbeat city
Oh
place.
yeah, there was more
But
restaurants
that's
around and things to do and all that stuff. But
and I
also, I
just
feel like we didn't enjoy it much because of our opposite schedules. We just didn't
yeah.
have the time to go out and enjoy that stuff together.
Exactly. So I think that that was a big strain. And then all like us having those problems in our relationship, especially with intimacy, it kind of got me in my thoughts. And I feel like that's why I was like, I'm homesick. I miss home. And then that was really kind of like the driving factor to me being like, I don't want to live in Rhode Island anymore.
And I can be honest with you, I was very um so I'm very intuitive, so I could kind of you didn't say anything to me yet, but I could, I could very easily tell. I think I asked you one day about it and you were just like, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling." Like you waited until I asked you, but I was also so confused because this had to have been like a month removed from like our first major vacation together, which we had a fucking blast on. So I was like, this is confusing to me. I don't get it. Um, but I remember you went home. You're like, I'm gonna go visit home, and I think you were there for like a week to 2 weeks. Like you just and I wasn't sure because we didn't make the decision whether we were together still or not. Like we didn't break
It
up.
was just like, yeah, we didn't break up, but we were like, we were on the fence. Like, are we
Yeah,
staying together? Are we not staying together? Like, we
yeah.
didn't know what we
You were
wanted
home
to
for
do.
about 2 weeks. Our communication wasn't as good. Like we weren't really talking as much.
Because
So I
I'm
think
not a good, so because Jared and I are two different, we're very different when it comes to communicating.
communication
I,
styles.
I like to chill out and take some time to really just like, oh, second glass. Well, my glass was a mega pint. So,
Third glass, but I also am using the stemless shit glass. So, and I'm not filling it all the way. So
but my communication style is when I am feeling like, I need some time to myself. I need to regroup. I need to internalize. And Jared's the type that really wants to figure stuff out and like talk about it and have a solution and not wait because and I get that, but that's just not how I always had to just keep things to myself and really just like, you know, figure my
totally
shit
get it.
out in my head. And so then I kind of just straight up told him like I'm moving back home.
You got a job. That was the
I
difference. You applied for
mhm,
a job and got it. So then you were like, I'm moving back here. And I was stuck sitting there going, what the fuck?
mhm.
And I think at the time, because I don't know if we really talked about this, um, but for those couple of weeks that I was just there by myself, it did feel lonely. It felt very lonely because my friends were like 30 minutes away, which in all actuality, 30 minutes isn't very far, but they weren't going to come visit me. Not saying I
No.
have shitty friends. It's just when you grow up in Rhode Island, things are so close together that
And your
you got to
family
be in the
wasn't going to come
mood to
there
go
either.
30 minutes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I was very lonely. Honestly, you want to know what I did? I rewatched Game of Thrones in like 2 weeks and drank like way too much wine. Like, that's what I was doing that whole time. But I remember you told me you got a job, and I was like, we have 6 months left on this lease. I'm not taking this shit over by myself. What the fuck are we supposed to do? And I was so like, I've never been in that situation before. So I didn't know what to do. And I remember you came back to kind of get some of your stuff. We still hadn't broken up at this point. There was never a
An
breakup here.
official breakup, yeah.
And I remember I said to you, and this was completely on a whim. I'm not even sure I thought about this too much. And I was just like, I'm just going to move down there with you. And I remember you were like, I don't think you're going to do that. But, and I will say that this came from, I don't want to say that it came from the most positive place. I think it turned out okay. But this kind of came from a place of envy, a place of jealousy, a place of like, so you're telling me you just up, left, got a job making, and I'm competitive. I played sports my whole life. I'm competitive at Spirit, and we'll have a whole episode on competitiveness in a relationship. But there
Mhm.
was a part of me that was feeling very competitive, and I'm like, there's no way you're gonna up and leave and make more money than me, and I'm just stuck here being like, what the fuck, and
It's like
like,
you're going to have a glow up and I'm going to be here all miserable.
yeah,
Fuck that
and
shit. I'm going too, bitch.
pretty much, and um, I wasn't. I think I was also in a place where I was on the fence with our relationship too.
I think we both knew
Yeah.
at that point that
But I wasn't
the
ready to give
future
up on it, I think.
yeah,
I
the
was
future
afraid
was
to give up on it.
looking yeah, the future wasn't looking that bright, but I think that we both were holding on, and then I just really didn't think that you were ever going to come to Connecticut. Like I
I didn't
really
think so either.
didn't you I like knew like deep down this was never going to happen. So that's why I was almost like accepting like okay, like he's not coming, like this is what it's going to be, but then he shocked me with that. And
And
I
you
was
didn't
like,
even
"Oh,
believe it when I told you.
I didn't believe it at all. I didn't believe it at all until you finally got a job."
Not even.
That I
We signed a lease for a new apartment before I got a job.
seriously?
Yeah.
That's crazy. But
Yep.
you were always better with money though. So you definitely had a decent amount of money saved opposed to me. So I feel like that was also like a safety net for you that you
Well,
were
not
able to
even just
kind
a
of go
safety
on
net.
a
That was also a thing that put a strain on our relationship because
yeah.
I I always treated a certain number in my account as zero. Even though it's not
Mm-hmm.
zero, I treated it as zero. So like I was very like choosy as to when I wanted to go out. Like you like to go out a lot, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to me, it's like it's not that I don't enjoy going out. It's like I'm trying to save this money and this is making me do the opposite of that. So
Yeah.
that would make me anxious and
And you
stressed.
also and not even just the money part, you genuinely didn't like going out.
It
And when
depends.
you would go out, you weren't the happiest to be there. Let's
No,
be
you want to
real.
know why though? Is because you know me, I've gotten a little bit better with it. I will say that. I
You
was
are a planner, though. You are a
Yes,
planner,
I'm
and
a
I would always do
planner.
things spontaneously. And then you'll be like, you don't like the uncertainty of like going into a night and not knowing. I'll be like, all right, we're going here, and then we're just gonna go with the flow. And that was very unsettling
Can
for
I
you.
tell you? I can pinpoint to exactly, and this is going to sound terrible, but I can pinpoint this exactly to a moment to when it made me anxious moving forward for a while. Was remember that I don't know if it wasn't the first time I came to Stanford, but it was one of the first times I came to Stanford.
When I got super drunk,
Yeah, and we had
yeah,
that was like our first big blow up,
first big fight, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that scarred me a little bit because I'm like, is this what going out is going to be? If we go out, this is what's going to be the result. So I always try to avoid going out because I was like, what if it leads to this? Like
I
that
think
was
that
so terrible.
this is another great episode to talk about you two couples having different lifestyles and like interests in going out and things like that because it definitely did put a strain on me because it just sucked because I was like, I want to go out and have a good time, but like Jared wasn't with it. And like, but that's also on his standpoint, like I just want to chill and be home and hang out. And you're trying to drag me out when I don't want to
Well,
go
here's
out.
the thing: is I love going out for dinner and drinks. It's just and there's nothing wrong with this. It's just our personality differences. You were the person who was like, I'm gonna go out. We're gonna start with dinner and drinks, and then we're not
And
gonna
see where
come
the
back.
night
But
takes us.
wherever the night takes us, is where we're gonna go. And in my head, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I'm gonna be home at 10:30 or 2:30 in the morning. I have no
And
fucking
then we
idea.
also didn't communicate well enough in the sense that, like, because we didn't really go out. We didn't really do date night. We didn't really, like, we did later on, but we didn't really do date night. And I think it's not because you didn't want to go out and have dinner and date nights because we never really planned it out.
Yeah,
So that's something that we never really took the time to be
which
like,
is
you know what,
important.
Ayesha, you like to go out. You like to do this, and that. I'm not too crazy about doing the spontaneous whatever, but we need to plan. And that was it was both of our faults
Oh yeah,
that we didn't
100%.
because we could have been like, hey, once every 2 weeks,
Or
we're gonna
even
do a
once a
date
week
night,
would have been fine.
and it's gonna be planned, and like we don't have to go out after, but like that's gonna be our night. Like we didn't, and this is something that like we definitely will talk about in future
Yeah,
episodes. And it's something that I've learned from our relationship is that if we would have taken the time to really sit down and be like, hey, like this is your lifestyle, this is my
yeah.
lifestyle, let's mesh them together and make something like let's come to a common ground so that we're both happy in the end. And that's just something we never did.
And we eventually learned, but we learned trial by fire. We had to make all the
Yeah.
mistakes to figure out, oh, this is how this person operates. Oh, this is how this person operates. Where we could have learned this in year one instead of opposed to like year 3 or 4. Like eventually we learned each other, and it wasn't
Yeah.
as big of an issue. But like I said, that one experience kind of led to some anxiety to where it's like, I will be honest, I've never said this to you before. I selfishly enjoyed COVID because it was like when I got home from work, I knew we were just chilling. Like we didn't have to go nowhere because there was nowhere to go. Like I loved it. I was like, fuck yeah, we're gonna watch Game of Thrones with a bottle of wine. Fuck everything else.
I enjoyed it too. I really did enjoy it. And it honestly, it was a good break for me too. To like take a break from all that.
Yeah, but then
Because
the
I think
animal
it
had to get
also
let out of the cage.
but no, yeah, that is funny. But I honestly didn't have a super negative COVID experience, which is I'm
No,
blessed to
I
say
mean,
that because I know a lot of people did.
oh yeah,
But I
that's because you slept all
we were
day.
straight chilling.
So by the
And it
time,
was nice because like your work schedule was nice because you didn't get out super late. So like we
no,
would have the entire evening
I
together.
got home at like 5 o'clock.
We would cook dinner together. We would do a workout. I remember we would go for a walk with the dogs. We'd do like a little workout. Do you
Yep.
remember we would do like little workouts in the basement?
Oh yeah,
And then we would cook dinner together. And then we would sit, relax, have dinner with like a glass of wine. We'd watch something. And then we just like have the whole rest of the night to chill,
yep.
smoke, hang out. Like
We
we were
did it
chilling.
all. We
Yeah,
did
we were
it all.
chilling.
So I selfishly enjoyed that, but
So we ended up in Connecticut in a very, very luxurious apartment that we quite frankly couldn't afford, but we made it happen.
which is so funny because when we were looking at our first apartment and it was like $1,500, I remember we were looking at like 1,200, and we were like 1,200 is all we can do. 1,200 is all we can afford.
Yeah.
Then I think the first one cost us like 1,575, and we're like, we signed it. And we're like, I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Because
6
it was
months
like the
later,
perfect medium of like city and not
yeah.
like it was perfect.
But 6 months later, we go down there and we sign a lease, which honestly, very stupid on my part. I didn't have a job down there, and I put my name on a lease. I knew eventually I'd get a job down there.
I think we were both really confident that you were going to get a job eventually. So yes, it was stupid, but at the same time, I think we both just knew, and we did have the security that God forbid something did happen. We both have parents, that would give us a lending hand. Like we were never going to be stranded.
Sure. But I mean, we went from not thinking we could do anything more than 1,200, then 6 months later,
double,
doing
almost.
$2,300 a month.
Yeah,
and it was just like we
it
signed
was like 2,400 with everything at the end of the day. Yeah,
dumb. That's not including electric and anything else. Like we still had to pay those bills on top of it,
but I don't regret it because I really liked that apartment.
It was great. I enjoyed it.
It was a great
somewhat.
apartment. I think it was because it was a big transition for you, and I feel like that area that we were in was a nice, like, it wasn't too city, it wasn't too rural. It was like
it was just because the apartment was on. It's like it was on a back road next to a main road, really.
Yeah. So, and we could walk the dogs comfortably and feel safe, and there was grass and trees and all that. So, like, it was a good
it was a good place,
adjustment place for you. And
I don't know if I'll ever have a bathroom that nice again in my life.
I know, we had a bathroom, a balcony, a beautiful kitchen. It was
the
a nice
bathroom had
space.
His and her sinks.
His and hers. It sounds so much better when we're like super close.
I don't know.
I think an ASMR video.
I don't know. Yours doesn't sound that great when you put your mouth on it.
Oh, damn. Yours sounds really good when you're close.
That's because I spent a lot of money on this. But
I didn't.
But
that has a lot to say about the two of us.
Yeah, I saved my money and spent it on a microphone. That's the other thing, though. I go all in on everything, though. I go all in on everything.
I'm good with my money. I'm not good with savings. Like, I can budget the money that I make. I'm good at budgeting my money. I pay my bills. I pay $2,500 worth of bills every single month on my own, no problem. And that's hard for someone to do. And I just have an issue with managing the money in a sense of, like, you know what I mean? So, but I am good with my money. I do my thing. I make my money and I work my ass off, and I have a lot of money. Like, I have a lot of extra income. I always have 2 jobs, 3 jobs sometimes. So that's how I'm able to manage it. But something that I do need to work on is my savings, and I know that.
And that segment was called Ayesha's Moment.
Ayesha's defense mechanism.
But no, I remember. What the fuck were we just talking about before this?
The house, the Norwalk apartment, and just like that, how that was.
Yeah. And I remember, like, I didn't have a job when I signed that lease, but I remember you were living down there still. I had to go back until I found a job, so I was still working the job that I had here in Rhode Island until I found one. But I remember going down there for New Year's Eve, and we didn't really have any furniture. I brought like an air mattress for us to sleep on and this whole thing. But I remember, even though this is what's kind of crazy though. We were on the fence, right? We weren't feeling that great about each other at the time. Not that we
We
felt
weren't
negatively.
fully in it. We weren't fully
And then
in
we
it.
signed this big lease, and I remember going down there for New Year's Eve, and that whole night I still felt like, man, she's really not that into you. Like that's literally what I felt. And I was like, I not in a mean way, but that's just like I'm like, man, we just did all this, and I'm about to move my entire life here, which isn't that bad. It's literally 2.5 hours. It's not far, but for me, it's
No,
incredibly far
it's the whole world away for you.
for with where I grew up. So, but I remember I was like anxious about that. I'm like, man, like I felt not. I don't want to say I felt hostility. I didn't feel hostility, but I felt like distance. Like emotional distance. Like I wasn't sure where your head was at, but I knew that we weren't in the same place. So it was like it almost felt, I don't want to say use the word awkward because it really never felt awkward between us, but it felt like
Never. We just weren't on the same page.
I didn't know what to do or what to say to you in that moment. Like I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
And then it's
whatever.
also like, and then I'm in a place where I'm thriving. It's like my friends, family, everything is thrown in. And then you're also kind of just being thrown in somewhere where you don't have your friends.
Listen,
You
it
don't
was
have your
only fair.
family.
It was only fair. You
It
lived
was.
here
It was
without
a,
yours, and I lived there for a little while without mine.
yeah.
But
And so when was that? So that was,
well, obviously I was down there for New Year's Eve. So we signed the lease at that place in like late December. And then I started a job there in February, which was at a Verizon store.
is this 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 2021. So
Yep. So then I moved down there, started a job at Verizon, which wasn't it. I mean, during the interview, I'm like, I'm a good communicator. I'm pretty good at talking. So I was like, I can sell cell phones. I mean, people come into stores looking for cell phones. It's not like I have to go door to door and sell you a phone. Like it's, I'm like, this is going to be easy. And the guy tells me like, oh, you can make up to like 100 grand a year. No problem. And I'm like, all right, fuck yeah, I'm in. And I got an hourly wage, but I had to work like 52 hours a week. But man, the management wasn't great. It was boring as all hell. I'm in there like 12 hours a day and there's not enough customers. And then you also have like four to five people who are competing for that sale. So then you realize like this is not at all what was explained. So I ended up spending my days. I only got one day off a week too, which was terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
But I spent my days just applying for another job, and thank God eventually I got one, which is the same job that I have now, which I love, which is great.
Great job.
Um,
Which, if we're looking back at all this, you coming to Connecticut, I think
oh,
was
it's
the
huge,
best thing
huge,
that happened. Like one of the best things that happened to you,
pivotal in my
because
life for sure.
not only did it open your mind to, because you were very hesitant about moving in general. Like even when we moved from your house, you were a little hesitant about getting into our first
Sure,
place.
but we're all hesitant about things that we've never done before.
Yeah. But I feel
There was also
like
a lot of excitement there too. I think on both sides,
yes,
there was a lot of
yes.
things that I was like, "Ooh, I'm a little scared about this." But in both instances, it was definitely backed by a lot of excitement as well.
But moving to Connecticut, I think did so many good things for you. And I really think that it was the right, every decision that we made, regardless of that it didn't work out, was the right choice at the moment. And then now looking back at it, I think that if it went differently, things would have, it just would have been a different outcome, maybe not in a good way.
Yeah.
So we lived in that apartment for, a little bit of time.
Well, you lived there for a long time.
Well, no, I'm saying like before our first official breakup.
Yes. So to preface, there was two. The first one was, I think we broke up in April-ish, late April. So about 2 years from like
it
right
was
now.
before Prince died.
My first dog. Time. Yeah, no, it was 2 years from right now. In the past, it was like
right.
April of 2021. It was because I still lived there for like a month.
Yes, and we did live together, still broken up, and that was awkward because we weren't in a good place.
We weren't. So the breakup wasn't like a fight or anything like that. Let's preface that. Like when we weren't in a good place, it's not like we were like one of us cheated or no. It was just like more of a continuation.
And I started to show signs that I just like I wasn't feeling it anymore. You also were just like not happy in the relationship, and but it was tough because you just got this good job.
Yeah.
You weren't sure if they were going to let you work remote, so it was really stressful on you because you also just rerouted your entire life to
Yeah.
Connecticut.
And it wasn't like I just moved my clothes. It's like I moved
It was
my
everything.
furniture. I moved so much stuff. But I honestly think that once we moved to Connecticut, we were on borrowed time because
Yeah.
what we were feeling towards the end of our first apartment before we moved to Connecticut, that was the reality. We just
We just didn't want to face it.
we didn't want to believe it. So I think moving to Connecticut put us in a honeymoon phase for a little while. Like we were loving it. We were chilling. We were thriving for a couple months, but eventually all that shit comes and catches up to you. And we had great times. I'm not going to say that we didn't, but I think when that breakup initially happened, more sad. I was more angry at the time. I don't think I told you that, but I was more angry at the time.
No, I know. I knew you were angry.
Just I don't even know how to describe it, but like
I was also definitely selfish, and everybody does need to be selfish in life for sure. But I think I was definitely a little more selfish than I needed to be, and I can definitely honestly admit that I was thinking more about myself than about you, and I definitely needed to put your thoughts more into consideration than I didn't, and that's something that I very much so regret. But I definitely feel like at that time I was more like, if I'm not happy, it's about me, blah blah blah. But
which
like,
is important, but
which is important and is valid, but at the same time I definitely didn't fully realize what I was doing to you at that time. Not that it wasn't a mutual thing, because it was at the end of the day,
the
but
breakup, yeah, that was
the way
mutual.
things happened
Yeah, the
were
way it all
not
unfolded.
ideal. Yeah, the way it unfolded was not ideal.
No,
And I'm not a good communicator.
I definitely felt a
I'm
certain way for a while.
Yeah, I know you did.
For a while, I felt a certain way.
And so you left.
Yeah, but I lived there for a month,
You lived there for a
and the
month,
way we dealt with things are completely different. And this isn't
yeah.
like me saying like, "Oh, you dealt with it the wrong way," or me blaming you, because we're just different people.
Mm-hmm.
But you had the option of saying like, "Okay, we went through this breakup, we're still living together, but I have the option that every day after work, if I want to go out with friends, I can do
Yeah.
that." And I didn't have that option, right?
So
So
you
I'm
were very
stuck at
lonely.
home
Yeah.
with my dog and your dog, and you're like, come home, shower. All right, I'm out. And I'm like, oh, good. I'm stuck taking care of both dogs. And I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely was feeling a certain way. And I don't know if it was so much that I was like mad at you, or if it was like upset that I didn't have the option to do the same thing,
Yeah. 100%.
where it was just like, would I handle it? Like, I don't.
Because that helped me. That helped me. But in a way, I do regret doing that because, well, not I do regret doing that, but I'm saying that's my way of distracting myself from
Yeah.
reality. And I wasn't able to properly grieve and actually internalize what was happening until the day that you left. And it hit me 20 times, 50 times harder than it did you, because you had those few weeks, that month, to really sit with your thoughts, sit alone with your thoughts, really, think about everything that was happening. And I was out drinking, hanging with friends, distracting myself. Like, this is good for me. I don't need this. Like, I'm ending, I don't, whatever. But then the day that you actually left, like, my whole fucking world came crushing down
And it
all at
honestly
once.
caught me off guard that you felt that way, because I'm like, I've been here
But
for a month. I didn't see like an ounce of this, and I already
but
had, like
that's
you
how I
said,
cope.
I
That's
already
how I
had a
cope.
month to compartmentalize everything that was going on, and I already had like a plan in my head of like, all right, this is how you're going to look at things. You're not going to be angry. You're not going to be sad. You're just going to be grateful for the time that you spent, and you're just going to make sure that when go back to Rhode Island, you're not going to sit here and be like, hey, I'm going to sit and sulk for 2 months and waste all that time. It's like, no, I'm not going to allow myself to do that. But I
Yeah.
do think having that month pretty much alone during work, because I worked in an office, so basically
Mm-hmm.
alone with my thoughts all day there, and then coming
I know,
home and
because you were in an office where it was just you and your
yeah,
manager.
me and my manager.
And
It's not
I
like
had a job where
we
I
weren't
was
talking.
constantly around people.
We weren't talking.
I was constantly around people. I always had people, and I also had a ton of people to talk to about things too. So I feel like that also helped because I always had my coworkers, my friends. To you, it was just like you were at work, did work, like, so that's something that really it affected me. And when you left, like, I think out of everything that's happened in my life, I think that was the biggest heartbreak,
Really?
like gut wrenching.
More
Yes,
than Prince?
yeah.
Really?
Prince is different though. You know what I mean? Like Prince is different in the
Guys,
sense
I'm better
that
than
when he
Prince.
no, you're not better than Prince. Prince is my dog that passed away last April.
I'm just kidding. That's how we deal with things. We make jokes.
But it definitely was one of the hardest things I've had to do in my entire life. For sure. 100%. And I don't think I've ever, like, yes, Prince is probably equal to the amount of crying that I did, but that day I didn't even think I was going to be able to like go. I'm glad that I went to work because I had to go straight to work after that.
Where were
If
you working
I
at that time? Were you working
put,
at
I
Green?
was, but I was bartending on the side still. So that night,
I don't think you were there yet.
no, oh no, you're right. I was at Green and Tonic.
Yeah,
I was
gonna
at Green
say.
and Tonic, but I always kept my bartending gig.
Yeah.
So that night I had to go into Cocina. So the whole way driving there, I was a mess. I had to pull over because I couldn't drive.
I just remember you saying that, obviously seeing like that made me upset a bit. But what really made it sink in for me is when you said that like you called your mom and your dad, and when you said like the amount of upset that you were made them that upset, that's when I was
Oh
like,
my!
oh shit, this isn't
Both my parents cried. I called my mom. I called my
crazy.
mom first, and she was crying with me. And I call my dad, and my dad. I mean, my dad's an emotional guy, but he was really emotional. And my stepmom told me a few days after, because they were in New Jersey that weekend with my aunt and her family,
Oh,
that my dad literally had to like separate himself from the family and like take time to like for him to cry and like for him to like, because my dad's like that, like when he sees that his daughter's in pain, like he feels it just as much. So and my stepmom even said like he was not okay for like the rest of the weekend, like he was just not, he just like felt it. But yeah, that was definitely rough for me. 100%, one of the roughest things I ever had to do. So then we were only broken up, but the thing was, and I think that what made us get back together so quickly after that, not that it was quickly, what was it, like 4 months?
it was long. It was like almost 8.
Really?
So we broke up in like May. I
My
I remember
timeline is so off.
I moved back to Rhode Island Memorial Day weekend,
Okay.
which is the end of May, beginning of June. And
Yes, because it was right after. I remember we celebrated your birthday together, even though we were
we were
broken
broken
up.
up. Yes, we did.
We celebrated it together.
Yes, and
And
then
we had a good time.
I don't even remember what we did.
I made you breakfast.
I bought Vans. I remember that.
We went to the
Oh,
we went
Beer
to the
Garden, not Beer
Sono
Garden.
Mall.
What the
We
hell was
went
the
to
name of the
Yard
place?
House.
Yard
We went
House.
to Yard House.
That's right.
Yeah.
I bought Vans. I remember that. I still have those Vans.
Yeah.
All black Vans. Love them. But fuck. What was I gonna say? Oh, that bums me out. I hate when I lose my train of thought. What were we talking about just before this? Before I said that we spent.
That it
How
was like
how
8
long
months.
we were broken up? Okay,
Yeah.
so I got back to Rhode Island like Memorial Day weekend. So let's just say beginning of June. I moved back to Connecticut February of 2022.
You're right.
So that's what June is month 6. So that's like 8 months. We probably got back. We probably decided we were getting back together like January ish.
But this time, which was different than our like this most recent like official breakup, was we didn't give each other time to like be alone and to
Yeah,
really and to really live life without each other.
because
That
it
we
wasn't a
just
day
like
we didn't talk. Like we literally
there
broke up and just kept in contact. Basically
we
picked up
still
everything the same as it was. Like
yeah
we talked about the same amount of time we did when we were in a relationship outside of the
yeah
relationship, but obviously
mm-hmm.
about different things. Like we weren't like,
Yes.
"Hey, love you." Like it was like, you know. And I remember the day I moved out, I got pissed because I was waiting for the moving company, and they came, and then they
Oh
told me
my
that
god.
they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you might have your stuff in like a week." And I'm like, "A week?" The fuck?
That must have caused, like, you were already stressed out. Like, that caused
I had
so
to
much
lock
more
Lexi in the
stress.
bathroom. She's barking her head off. It was just like, whatever, dude. It was whatever. But yeah, no, we spent
But we didn't give each other that time
yeah.
to do that healing, be able to accept things because, like, things just didn't change. So
Ladies and
we
gentlemen,
did
by the way, healing very important. Make sure you
very
take time for
important.
yourself. It's very important.
That's like a whole nother episode right there in itself. But yeah, so things didn't change for us. And I feel like we both had a tough time getting back into the dating scene. And I feel like we both had such a rough
Well, we were
time. And
out
it
of
was
it for
just,
so long.
we were out of it for so long that when it did get closer to the point when we ended up getting back together, that we were both like, well, if we're still talking the way we did, if we're still having this connection, like, why are we not back to, like, why aren't we back together? And then I think we both also did take time to really internalize, especially on your part. I felt like you were a lot more aware of the things that you wanted to change, and not
Yeah.
that like you were the only one that was doing things wrong, because I definitely had things that I also was doing wrong too. But hearing you like being really like insightful about, like, this is why I did this, and I feel like this is why things didn't end up happening, like working out for us, and we were just like talking about all these things. I was like, well, if we're so aware of all the issues that we had, then why don't we just get back together and fix the issues that we know that we can fix? And we thought it was just as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing
I
too.
think deep down we knew that
Yeah.
it wasn't going to work, but we both wanted to make sure that we gave it one more try to not have that what if in the future.
Yeah, and I think a big portion of it too was the way that it ended that first time. Um, it was a mutual feeling, but obviously, even though things are mutual, someone's got to start the conversation. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember you started the conversation, and there was a part of me that was like, "You have two choices here. You can accept this, or you can fight it." And I was just like, "The fuck am I going to fight right now?" And I think that decision, and the fact that we kept talking for like 8 months, led me to a point where it was like I spent 8 months wondering, like, what if you didn't just be like, sure, And granted, I was checked out at that time too, mentally. Like I was, you know what I mean? We did feel like more like roommates than
Mm-hmm.
people who were romantic partners at that time. But it's almost like in a relationship when someone's like, "Hey, I'm not feeling it." It almost made me think that like the right thing to do is be like, "Oh, let's address why you're not feeling it and let's see if we can fix it," versus giving up on it. And I think I was like, "Nah, let's just fucking like you're feeling the same way."
Which I don't regret at all,
No, I don't
because
either. I think those eight
I don't
months,
regret getting back together at
you
all.
know, helped me learn a lot of things. And I'll be honest with you, the moment that really made me, because I think during those 8 months we were talking a lot because we did go to a wedding together.
We did. I think that's also what really brought more feelings and things like in the air, because we did
Sure.
kind of act like a couple for that wedding.
And then the moment that really made me say, like, I'm
Fuck it.
kind of wondering, but to be like, fuck it, let me just bring it up, was there was one night I went out with one of my friends and it was snowy, and on the way home, like the car literally spun off the road and almost went
Oh
through one of those highway signs.
yes.
Nothing like no one got hurt. It wasn't like a car accident, but a part of me was like, this could have easily flipped. And I know this could be a dramatic thought, like, oh, I could have died right now. And the only thing I'm sitting there doing is like, I'm wondering, should I have been like, nah, I didn't try hard enough in that moment. Plus, I, like you said, I did like 8 months of reflecting of like, here's where I know where my shortcomings were. Maybe if I'm aware of them, it'll fix things. The answer is it doesn't. But it
No,
was
I mean, sometimes it does, but in this instance
in
it
this
didn't.
instance it didn't. But it allowed me to reach out to you, and then I will say rather surprisingly, you were feeling the same way.
I was definitely feeling the same way. And I remember because then I started working at this job where I had two coworkers who I constantly was telling things about. And I was bringing up Jared, 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 Jared. And one of my coworkers was like, this Jared guy seems like a great guy.
Right on.
Like, I don't understand like why you're not even with them. Like you two, like, and so I had
Full
these two
disclosure,
birds and
he
I
is a great guy.
he is a great guy. But I had them both chirping in my ear, like, why aren't you together? And then one of my really good friends, too, was like, you know, you're saying all these things about Jared. You guys are such good friends. Like, I just don't understand, like, why you guys aren't together. And you mentioned something, and then I was all for it. And then I was like, you know what? I have been thinking about that. Like, I have been thinking about us
Do you
getting
remember
back
what I
together and us.
mentioned? I don't necessarily remember the
I just remember
verbiage.
being at work. I remember being at work and going to the bathroom and peeing, and and you sending me a
Very
text message
specific.
and me responding to the message while I'm literally on the toilet. And I was just like, I honestly do feel like this would be worth another shot. And then we both just got super excited.
Hey,
And
you.
then
This is how I know I was feeling some sort of way, because I remember like almost for like the full 8 months, I was listening to like nothing but Joji, and I haven't listened to Joji since. So he makes kind of sad music. So like you could tell I was missing. There was a void in my life that I was like, yes, I think this is
yeah,
it.
and we missed each. I still miss you till this day. I miss having you around, but just a
Yeah,
different
you miss more or
kind
less
of
my
miss.
presence than my like romanticness of things.
Yes, like
I don't even know how you
even when you came this past weekend, and when you left, I cried in the car.
came to visit.
I
Came to visit.
Yeah, you came to visit because we were going to do the podcast. We did the
We
podcast and it
did.
didn't end up working.
It
But
just
we spent a whole weekend together.
we
We
did.
spent a
And it
whole
was a
weekend
good
together.
time. We had a great time.
It was a great time. And then when you left, and it's so funny because I texted Brooke. I was like, I don't know why I always get so emotional when he leaves. It's like the craziest thing.
I didn't see you get
But
emotional when I left.
it's yeah, because I did when you actually left. In the car, I was literally crying to
Oh,
myself in the back seat.
oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I forgot we went to your mom's house.
But I do miss also like when you live alone, like it does get lonely. So it is nice to like because you and I lived together for so
Yeah.
long. So it's like it was nice to just have like that person.
So I
But
overinflated her feelings. It's just because she lives alone.
but yeah, that's the only reason why. And so we did end up getting back together.
We did.
And we did get into that honeymoon phase once again. That always happens. It was like a month or so of like a honeymoon
But can
phase.
I
And
tell
then
you
things just
this?
kind of
The first night, like I know I came and visited on a couple of weekends to like kind of bring my stuff, and
mm-hmm.
then I was like, all right, this is the weekend that I'm fully gonna move back in, because luckily you ended up buying furniture, so all I had to bring was like my personal stuff. I didn't
Yeah.
have to bring any
Yeah.
furniture, which was
Mm-hmm.
wonderful for me. It made it a lot safer for me knowing that I didn't have to bring furniture. I think the only thing I brought was like clothes and my TV. I didn't think I brought anything else. But anyways,
Yeah, that was a
um but I remember the first night when it was like, this is my official night back. I brought Lexi with me. Um and you and I think originally we were gonna see a movie, and then we decided not to do that. But you were out with one of your friends, and you were like, why don't you just come meet us? And I was like, in my head, I was like, really? We're starting with this again. And if you know me, this isn't like it's that big of a deal. I've gotten past this point now, and I think honestly this moment was pivotal for me. Um because there is a part of me growing up in a small town where I have a little bit of anxiety of like, I got to meet somewhere that I have in an area where I'm not familiar with, and it's
You're
more
all
of a,
about convenience. You're all
I
about
am all
convenience.
about convenience. I will pay more for convenience. It's true. So if you want to
So when
sell
you're
me
going
something,
somewhere and it's inconvenient in the sense that you don't know where you're going, where you're going to find parking, is it going to be a far walk? Is it going to be like you take all that into account?
I do. I'm a creature of convenience. So if you want to sell me something, make it convenient. Um, but then I remember like I got off the phone with you, and I was just like, a part of me felt a little upset where I'm just like, damn, I thought it was going to be different this time originally.
But then at the same time, you did tell me that you were also willing to be more open to things like that
True.
and to
So
be
so this is what I did. I sat on the couch for like 15 minutes with the dogs, and I was just like, just take a few deep breaths. It's really not that big of a deal. And I logically thought about it, and then I met you. And
and
then
we had a great
we had a
time.
great time. But I remember the second place we went after your friend left, it was just you and I. The one thing that meant the most to me in that moment was you acknowledged that what you had just done. Not that you did
I
anything
just
wrong, but you
Oh, I
acknowledged
knew
it.
it.
And that was
I
like the
knew and
first time you acknowledged it ever. And I was like, that's all I've ever wanted.
because I knew that it was going to bother you.
I
I knew
didn't
that
mind doing
I
it.
knew that
It
it was
was
going to
just the
bother you.
acknowledgement of like, hey, thank you. I know that this is not a big deal for me, but it's a big deal for you. And that was just like, man, that's all I ever needed. That's it. That's all I ever
Mm-hmm.
needed. And I was like, cool. And that's when I was like, I went from being like, did I make the wrong choice to nope, made the right choice. And now we're
Mm.
back to being like, well,
And it was good, and it was good. And you needed to come back
I
into my
did.
life
I
because
needed to.
that rent was way too expensive on my own.
I carved out the middle of it.
and
I bookend that lease.
and you were there when Prince passed away, and I would
Yes.
not have been able to do that without you. 110%. If
Yeah.
you weren't there, I don't know what the fuck I would have done. I would have been in a fucking group home.
And that was heartbreaking for me too. I remember I remember the first day. So basically, what happened to him was he slipped a disc in his back. So like over the course of like a week and a half, his back legs stopped working. Like they were kind of like
It just happens. It was such a quick decline
look
too. It
up
was such a quick
Gumby. He
decline.
was bendy like Gumby. Like his shit just didn't work. Like he'd come out of a room and he'd be Tokyo drifting around a corner. Like he
Poor
just
thing.
like his legs couldn't catch up, so it's like his ass end would just like he'd run out for food because he still had his his
Oh,
excited demeanor,
his energy never left him.
but his
I think
back
that's what
legs
made it
didn't
so
work,
much
and it was
tougher.
heartbreaking to watch because you're looking at this dog, and not to be too much, but like you can't walk him anymore. He can't go to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom anymore to the point where he's like peeing and then dragging himself through it, and then you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you never want to make that decision, but sometimes you have to make that decision, and I know it was obviously her dog for what 13 years. Was he 13?
Mm-hmm.
And he was only
He
mine
was
for about like
for
what
like 4.5.
four and a
Yeah,
half years.
it's a long time.
Yeah, so like I've grown to be fond of
And
the
Prince
little
was
guy.
always there. Like he was with
Yeah,
me from when I moved into my. He was literally living with me in my dorm in Providence
not the
because
first time, not initially.
not the first time, not the first year, the second year.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there, and then from then
And
until we
and
broke
when you
up, he
did your
was always
internship,
living
he
with
lived
us.
with me
Yeah.
for
Yep.
3 months.
Jared. Yeah. And Prince was not easy.
For
He
three
never was
months, the dude
easy.
has to pee every 10 minutes. It's like a guy with an enlarged prostate. Not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So that was really, really, really tough on me. And I wouldn't have been able to go through that without Jared there and having Lexi there too. Like
Oh, I
coming
just remember
home.
how much of a mess I was before I went to work that day because I had to go to work and she was like she had to go to the vet to
Put him
do that
down.
thing you do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, that was rough for me that morning. I couldn't even concentrate at work, and I mean I can only imagine how you were feeling having him for 13 years. Me only having him for like 4.5 with an 8-month layoff, but um, it, to this day I still miss his. Dude panted all the time. I can hear it in my sleep sometimes. It's crazy.
But yeah, I do think that everything in life happens for a reason, and you needed to come back in my life at that point to be there for me, to support me, and to help me, go through that. And then it was April, May, June, July. I
July
think
and
I think Prince passed away. We
April.
were we were still chilling. We were good.
We were
And
good for a
then
little
I
while after that.
I think we just started regressing back to the same issues that were the issues from the beginning.
But I will say this: it was better because this is the
It was
first
better.
time. This is the first time we were dating where we're actually on like a very similar schedule,
Yeah,
which was a
yeah,
big
yeah,
help. That
yeah.
was a huge help.
Mhm. Oh
Like
yeah.
in a relationship, you don't realize how much being on opposite schedules really fucks you
Oh,
until it's too late. And
and this
literally,
is
I'm gonna say until it's way too late, you don't realize it's fucking you up until it's too late. You really don't.
it's hard to make things work when one person is working a 9 to 5 and the other person is working 4 to 12, like in the restaurant. Like
It's so opposite. You almost never see each other unless you have
you
similar
never
days
see each
off.
other. And then
It's
when you do see each other, one's exhausted
yep.
and the other one is it's never a fair game.
It's not, and I would say this will be a whole other episode in itself. But if I can leave you with a little nugget, it'd be like make sure you have open communication and plan time together in those moments because it'll fuck you up if you don't. Like it'll really.
Mhm.
You may think that you can handle it, you can't. Unless you have a plan to handle it, you can't handle it. I'm telling you, it just won't be a thing.
Mhm.
But and tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you were feeling this way because I can't speak for you. I really didn't feel too much stress on the relationship until we started moving.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was if you were feeling it a little bit before that for you,
100%.
or if it was just
100%.
that move.
Oh, it was the move in itself because so Jared and I had a trip to Spain planned in August and we moved out and
What?
my
When did our lease
family
end? June? Did it end in June? No. Yeah.
it ended in June. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
because it
ended
was
in June
after your
because
birthday. Yeah.
yeah. And we my family is that's probably a whole nother episode in itself, us
Yeah.
talking about our
Yeah.
families. But my family, unfortunately, causes a lot of stress in my life. And I feel like in this moment, since it was affecting the both of us, that it really did put a strain on the both of us. And it was a lot of uncertainty. And that's something that you do not like. And it was something that at that point I didn't like either because we had such a plan
It was
and they were
uncertainty to like when it was to that level, right? A little bit of
yes, like
uncertainty we can handle. Living
it's our
situation
living
uncertainty is
situation.
like when we had control, but we relinquished control.
And then
That's
it
what the
was like
problem
we had
was.
a plan, right? My mom bought a house, we were going to move in.
Well, no, we weren't
We
even
had a
sure at this point. We were really going to look for another lease, and your mom
well,
said, "Hey,
begging us,
don't sign another
begging
lease.
us.
I'm renovating this house. I'll rent to you guys." Here's the problem: the
And
house wasn't done, and we were like, "We need to move our stuff out of here. Is it going to be done?" And it wasn't, and that
and she
was the
kept
real,
on saying that it was going to be,
and that
and
was
it
the
wasn't.
problem.
And then it turned into okay, because she was living with her boyfriend at the time, who's
Yes.
a great guy, but the two of them also have a very toxic relationship, and that also affects your well being
Oh,
when you're living in the
100%.
middle of it. So
100%.
we lived there for like a few
With
weeks,
none
and
of our
then the
stuff out of a bag, really. Because
and I think that was the killer for us. That was the killer for the
you want
both
to
of
know
us. And
why?
then
Because, and this isn't a bad thing, I think it was a killer because you went back to the way that you knew how to distract
cope
yourself.
with things.
And I, once again, didn't have that
Was
option.
lonely. Yep. We were literally back to square one.
But the difference in this instance was I wasn't in my apartment by myself, I was in
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's house,
Yeah, this was worse. This was honestly worse.
you
Yeah,
know?
this was definitely worse.
So that puts
For
strains
sure.
on things. It really
Yeah.
does.
And then from all that stress, I was putting ideas in my head. And then I was starting to put that stress towards the relationship, which may have been like misconstrued a little bit in my head. But then all that stress was like, this isn't going to work. We're not handling this both like in the same way that we should. And then it just turned into kind of like that same initial breakup, but this time it was sour. This time it was definitely
Well, it
sour.
wasn't sour at first. I think we had another genuine conversation of like, hey, this is what you want to do with your future. It's not necessarily what I've envisioned for my future.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of in limbo here. Does it make sense for us to start another chapter of our life and then come to the head of what you're talking about in like 2 years? Or does it make sense to just cut the cord now and just, I don't want to use the word waste because waste isn't the right word. I don't want to say waste
No.
like 2 years of our life just to basically, we said we could go on this way for 2 years and probably be fine, or we could just face what's inevitable in 2 years and just do it now and make it easier. And
Mm-hmm.
we chose to do it now. And we were like, well, we still have this trip and we were going to enjoy this trip. And then some unfortunate chaos happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the decision not to go on the trip,
Yeah.
which ultimately, looking back on it now, at the time, whatever. But looking back on it now, ultimately, I think it was the best decision because, like you said earlier, I think whether we believe it in the moment or not, I think things in life happen for a reason. And
And knowing us, we were going on the ship with a family that is an amazing family,
yes,
and we're both friends with them till this day, and they all love Jared so much, and they all want me to get back together with Jared. But I do feel like being in that environment would have caused us to
oh yeah,
get romantic.
Spain? Are you kidding?
We were gonna have all of them in our ears, like you two are meant for each other, this, and that. And I bet you we would have came back from that trip all lovey dovey and stuff, and then it would have just been that same pattern, like honeymoon phase, then just like back to where reality strikes again.
Yeah.
So
Ultimately, I
And
think we made the right decision because even though it was like the chaos of moving and all this stuff that made us arrive at this decision, it was still the same problem that we've always had where we got to the point
yeah,
where we weren't being intimate anymore. And it was
no.
like, we're just roommates.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, we're just roommates who tell each other we love them. That's it.
And I do think that, even though, because Jared did leave abruptly and we didn't talk for a little while
I think I
because
had to leave that way.
I was super upset that he wasn't coming to Spain. I was super, super upset.
It's not what you told
And
me.
well, obviously I'm going to be a bitch and be like, we're better off without you. But obviously in the moment I was very
Yeah.
upset. And we didn't talk for a little while.
I would say for
And
about a month we didn't talk.
yeah. But we needed that because it would have been like the last time where we just was acting like nothing changed. And then it would have been, and that gave us both time to not one heal a little bit because I didn't
I know a
completely
month is not
heal.
long enough to heal, but it let the dust settle,
It let the dust settle.
which we
It
never
let
let
us,
happen before.
no, it let us kind of have a little bit of like, fuck you moment because you do need that. I feel like when you end a relationship, you do need like a fuck you. I don't need you in my life. You need to like let out that anger because I feel like the first time around it was like,
It makes it easier.
oh, I still love it. Makes it
It makes
easier
it
and it makes
easier
it
when you
easier to let
dislike the
go.
person that you're
Yes,
trying to
because I've
separate yourself from.
heavily disliked you for a little while.
Yeah.
But I knew deep down like we were still gonna be fine. And it took a little time and it took, and then we finally came to a point where we could become friends. And I feel like we had that time to really have like a little bit of like towards each other that we were able to get to this point, and then we were more comfortable about talk because at that point we were just like, it's over, like this is super super duper over. And we were able to like, obviously we bounced back to like a friendship, and then we were able to just I feel like we just got more comfortable talking about things, about dating, about
Oh
other
yeah.
people. And that
Because
also
that
helped too with the healing process.
yes, because that was the moment where we were like, never again. I think the second time getting back together was to cure the what if, and then once we
Yeah.
figured out, no, it's the
Nah.
same. It
Hmm.
ultimately is the same. Then we're like, all right, we cured that what if. Now there's no more wondering. So now we can kind of look at the situation as like you and I objectively as like we're never going to be right for each other romantically. We're probably not going to ever be compatible like in terms of like lifestyle and living, but that doesn't mean that we can't be great friends. And I think
Hmm.
that's like the friendship and the love for a person you have like human to human, not
Hmm.
romantically, but human to human, that doesn't change. Right? We
Hmm.
we made a connection and we grew a comfortability with each other and we took the
And
time to
our
get to know.
families too, I feel
Yes.
like we both have such a close relationship with each other's family. And like, yes, my family is night and day compared to your family. I mean, you have definitely
Oh, we'll
a
cover
more,
this.
yeah, we'll cover
There's
all of
negatives
that.
both ways, I'm telling you.
But there's still like such a strong bond. And, both of our families we still all love each other. My parents love Jared. I hope Jared's parents still love me. I think they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like everybody has accepted the fact that like we're just always going to be in each other's lives.
Yeah, and you know, it's always unfortunate when things like that happen, but like you said, and I know you felt differently like this cuz we've talked about this. I was 100% under the impression that because like when we didn't talk for a month, like before like the night I didn't leave, I left the next morning, but like that after that night, I was like, "Oh, she ain't never going to talk to me again." I genuinely felt
Well,
that. I know you didn't feel that.
because you know me,
I know.
and you know that when it comes to certain things, and when I cut someone out of my life, like they're cut off.
Oh yeah. And there was a part of me
But
that
I knew that wasn't the case with you. Like I knew that from the beginning. If I would have thought that way from the beginning, then maybe it would have changed. That would have been different, a different outcome. But I knew that. All right, I'm gonna be angry at him for a little while, but I know it's not gonna be because what happened wasn't something worth like cutting you out of my life. Like I've had people
no,
that I've cut
yeah.
cut out of my life and still have cut out of my life,
The shame was is it really was had way less to do with us and
and
more
more
to
with
do
the
with
environment that we were in
yeah, and
and the
that's what
situation that
I
we
think
were in.
that's what the shame was. But let me ask you this cuz I never talked to you about this before. Were you shocked because I felt like it was out of character for me to do. Were you shocked that I just left?
Yes and no. Yes, because I feel like you're usually more like talking about things with me and being more
Oh,
like,
I thought there was no talking to you after that.
you communicating things with
I
me, but
genuinely felt that. I'm like, oh, she ain't ever gonna talk to me.
I wasn't surprised because I didn't blame you. Like I knew that it was a lot and I knew that you deserve better than that and I knew that it just wasn't a healthy situation to be in. So it was a yes and no for me. It was yes because it was out of character for you, but no because that's what you needed to do at that time, for
It
sure.
was so out of character for me.
Yeah, it was
If it
very out of
wasn't
character for you.
for your mom and her boyfriend, I would have left that night.
Mhm.
They were like, no, 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 don't do that. You can stay here as long as you want. I'm like, the fuck am I gonna stay here for?
Yeah.
Was I bummed that I didn't go to Spain? I mean, I think ultimately that was what was supposed to happen. I was bummed that I paid for some stuff that I could not get the money back for.
I wasn't.
No, I
Just
mean,
kidding.
yeah, but you didn't benefit from me paying for my flight.
No, I know. But that trip was very healing for me. Very, very healing for me. And especially because Jared and I had 2 days in Madrid and 2 days in Barcelona planned, just the two of us. And I ended up doing that on my own. And I do feel I do feel like I needed that. And I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of healing. I did a lot of self-reflection because I'm not someone that like gets really deep in their thoughts. And I had those moments in Spain to just be with myself, not with friends, because I'm always surrounded by friends,
Mm.
family, something or the other to distract me and to get my mind off things. But that was the first time that I actually had to face reality and accept things. And I needed it for sure. I came back from that trip feeling a lot better. And then not long after that trip, we were able to be friends again
Well, I remember you sent me a text when you were on that
in
trip,
Spain.
and
Yeah, I sent you an apology. I sent you an
I was
apology.
flabbergasted, and I was like, was not expecting that. To the point where I was like so caught off guard, I didn't even know how to respond. And you know me, I usually don't ever have a loss for words. So like I was like, I don't know what to
Hmm.
say to you. But it was mainly because I never thought I would ever receive that, and that's not like me saying anything about your character. That's just like we never had a blow up like that to the point where I'm like, I don't know what this means because I've never seen it before, so I don't know what this equals. I have no idea.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I think hindsight like is 2020 to the point where I'm like, yeah, I ultimately do think that things were meant to happen that way in the sense of like we were never going to fully get over each other if we didn't have that fuck you moment in that month
Hmm.
of like we're not going to communicate with each other at all. And that
Hmm.
really helped set the stage to be like we can now talk about, like you said, future relationships. You can ask me for advice about dates
And
and
it
vice
took time to
versa.
get there.
Oh
It definitely
yeah.
took a little time to get there
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. And I think that me dating this guy too and being able to talk about that with you made me a little bit more comfortable about it. I don't know if it made you feel comfortable. But once that situation happened and I was open about that with you, then you started being more open about things with me and then things didn't end up working out with this guy. But after that, I think we were both like, all right, well, we can talk about these things and it's okay.
Yeah, and I ultimately feel like for me not bringing that stuff up because I didn't know how it was going to make you feel was like why I always hesitated
Mhm.
bringing it up. And you know, it's easy for me to be like, "Hey, I think I'll be okay with it." I mean, now I know I'm okay with it, but at the time it's like I could ultimately be like, I'll tell you this. There was a thought I had, and it happened both times when we broke up, to where we were in a point where we weren't being romantic at all, and we were just really good. Like we felt like really good friends living together, essentially, but
Mhm.
sharing a bed.
Mhm.
So it was a kind of a weird situation. But there was a point in my life where I was just like, this is the type of friend you wish you always had. And I don't mean for like just relationship advice, but it's like this is the person that'd be like relationship advice with, but it also felt weird because we were also in a romantic situation.
Mhm.
But like now we're at that point, and it's like, yeah, this is exactly where I felt, not the whole time, but during both breakups, where I thought ultimately we should and would be is like, hey, you know me best. Does this person seem like a fit for me? Does this person not seem like a
Mhm.
fit for me? And be ultimately honest with each other, which I believe that we are, you know. because there's nothing more to gain from each other. And what I mean is like there's no reason to withhold anything because we've already covered the what if. I think the first time we were broken up, we were afraid to talk about those things because we were both,
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin the what if.
And we were in denial because you and I have like had we still do. We have a great dynamic, great friendship. But even when we were together, like we had way more good times than bad. The bad times were very like minuscular in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they
Obviously
were.
at a
Trivial shit.
point
Always trivial shit.
it became like okay, like we got to end this, but like we had way more good times than
But
bad.
we've never ended it because of an
Such
argument.
we had such a healthy relationship. We had so many beautiful memories together that it's never going to be wasted time. It's never going to be like, oh, we should have never like, oh, those 5 years of my life are gone, whatever. No, if
No.
anything, I'm so happy that we had that
I've learned
and
so
it's made
much.
us both grow.
100%.
We've both been able to improve and just be better people. We both have affected our lives in really great ways. So I just think that not a lot of people think about that though with their ex because
It's
I feel like not
painful.
a lot of
It's
people
painful to think about.
and they don't have that great like it's really tough to find a healthy relationship like that. It's not because I look at all my friends and their past relationships and stuff like that, and I looked at us and I remember being like, I don't have those issues with Jared. Like that fucking sucks. I don't have those issues with Jared. The hell? Stupid fucking arguments about you doing this and that. Like, no, we never had those childish little petty jealousy. Like, of course, there was a little bit of jealousy and envy in certain situations, but it was never malicious. It was always just good vibes with us for
We
majority of the
never
time. It really
had that.
was.
We never had that fuck you moment during a relationship ever.
Never. Never.
We never really experienced it because we weren't shitty to each other. Like we never did shitty things.
We
And I
never
think that
did
all
shitty
comes
things.
down to
Yeah.
like I mean honestly, and maybe I'm wrong, and this could be a whole other episode that we'll cover. But like, if you're having those issues with someone, I think that's a red flag. Like, you shouldn't be having fuck yous with each other.
And I honestly feel so blessed because now that I was able to experience that as my first serious relationship, my first boyfriend, it sets the tone for all my other relationships to come
I
and
ruined
like
it.
the expectations that I have
I ruined it.
because I remember this like when I was with my ex after you.
I ruined it.
I remember my really good friend Annette was like, if he's not going to be better than Jared, then why are you even in this? Like you had a great ex-boyfriend, and if that person can't be better than him, then there's no, because I would always be like, how am I with someone that's not like Jared or at least better than Jared? Like I have to be improving. I have to be upgrading. I can't be downgrading.
Which is a whole other
So
episode on itself, but I 100%
it makes
get.
things tough, but it puts me in a place where it's like, I know what I deserve and I know what I want and I'm not going to settle for less.
Yeah, which I
And
100% get.
it took me a heartbreak to realize that, unfortunately. But I think that it's a beautiful thing that I have you as my blueprint. You know what I mean?
Yes, just don't
Like,
follow it too much.
no, but like it's either gonna be you have to be better than that or nothing at all.
Think about this, gentlemen. I'm setting the bar fairly high, and we didn't work out, so good luck.
Good luck. I'm just kidding.
But no, I 100% agree, and I think about it in a different way. I don't necessarily think about like, oh my god, I need my future to be better than you. Though I'll tell you this: the one thing I take away from our relationship is
Just one thing.
no. This is like the major thing that I take away from it that makes it seem like it's hard moving forward. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're looking at it as like, how am I
Hmm.
going to find someone that tops that? Not saying I'm the bee's
Well, I
knees.
know I can find that person, but
Sure, thanks. Sure,
it's
but
tough.
not
The
saying I'm the bee's
streets.
knees. But what I'm saying is, um, I fear not fear. Fear maybe not be the right word. I hope that I can find someone that, like, sure, all that life compatibility stuff, like, that's its own separate thing. I'm not even including that in this. The one thing that I'm like, man, oh man, I hope I find this in whoever my future partner is. I hope that I can have a level of friendship and a level of like I genuinely love this person as a person. Like, I don't even mean in a romantic or a sexual way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
someone that I can be like, I never get tired of kicking it with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, fuck, that may be harder to find than all. Like, we all have the qualities that we're looking for that match our lifestyle compatibility. Like, you and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
match our lifestyle compatibilities, and that was the biggest thing. But the one thing that we hit on was like, we'll enjoy each other's company every
We didn't
time.
get sick of each other.
We
We
enjoy
never
each
got
other's
sick of each
company
other.
all the time,
Clearly,
every
we're still
time.
not sick of each other.
All the time,
Yeah.
every time. We may have had problems where we weren't being intimate as much, where our lifestyles didn't line up, and things like that
And future
nature,
goals and future
and future
goals.
goals and things like that. But it's like, fuck, am I gonna find someone that I'm like, I want to kick it with this person all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure,
You
like,
will.
you
You're
will.
definitely going
Just
to.
just same thing with you.
We
You're gonna
both
find that
will.
person.
Yeah,
It's
we
just
both
like
will.
you're setting the
It's
bar
just,
of
it's
like, I don't want,
harder. Yeah.
like, I'm focusing, like, sure, qualities of a person is 100% important. Goals, the way they want to live their lives, trivial things, they seem stupid, but they kind of make a difference. If you guys like to do the same thing in two polar opposite ways, you're going to have a little bit of fucking traction, a little bit of pushback, a little bit. You can probably get past it.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is like, can I find that person that I can have fun doing anything with? And I'm not even including like sexual or romantic, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, or that's gonna laugh at my stupid shit because I say a lot of stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing where
Do
it's
your
just
do
like,
your do your dinosaur noise really quick.
no, they have to stick around for that. You can't give all this stuff up easy.
All right.
But see, now they're gonna be curious. Now they're gonna stick around. If you've listened this far,
Am I gonna find someone that's gonna accept Blanky, even though Blanky doesn't really exist?
that's a whole other
That's
thing.
a whole nother
That's a
episode. All right,
whole other thing.
we got to end things here. So
People
I
are
think we should wrap
people are like,
things
what the
up.
fuck is blanky? And then they're
I
also
think we're
saying,
gonna.
what the fuck is dinosaur noises? Yeah, we got
Well,
problems. Maybe that's why we
yeah,
vibe
we got real
so
problems.
much. We don't know.
But we're really excited to continue making more episodes, and we're definitely gonna be more organized and episodes to come, and kind of have like segments to the episodes and things of that nature. But this was just like an introduction of you getting to know us and us being able to kind of just like blab on about our relationship and what we've experienced and why things didn't work out. But we have a lot of cool topics, both serious and goofy. Whoa, whoa,
I have to
got a
sit like
peacock
this.
head.
I know. It's my headphones. My
But
headphones are doing it. Only if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that my hair is kind of fucked up. I got like an alfalfa going on. If
but
you're
we're
just
really
listening,
excited.
think about it the
We're
way that you
really
want.
excited. We're really excited, and we have a lot of episodes to
You
come.
just blew out everybody's
And
eardrums.
stay tuned. And if you like this, please like, subscribe, follow us. We have an Instagram, a TikTok, a YouTube. We're gonna be on Apple Music. Not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. We're gonna be on Spotify.
Here's the thing.
And
Wherever you found this, wherever you're listening, leave a review. Like it. If you actually only like it if you genuinely enjoyed it. Don't like it because we
yeah,
asked you to. And
we're
then,
not here thirsty for likes. We
yeah,
just want genuine feedback. And then eventually we want to get to a point where we can ask, once we do create an audience, questions that we can answer and things like that. Because I feel like people are going to have a lot of questions for
sure.
us.
Yeah,
For sure.
100%. And I'm actually excited to get to that point. But, just to reiterate what she said, if you enjoyed this, leave a review. Like it. Share it with a friend. That would mean the world to us if you just shared it with somebody. This is just something we talk to each other all day, so we might as well record it and bottle it and send it out into the world anyways. So this is really
Mm-hmm.
fun for us, regardless if you're listening or not. We appreciate it more if you do listen. We really do. And if you want to see the video version, if you're listening to this on audio and you do want to see the video version, it is on YouTube. Go check it out. The links to everything of wherever you're listening to this will be in the description. Our personal Instagrams, the other accounts that we have that have to deal with this podcast, they'll all be listed in the
Everything
description.
will be there except for our social security number and address.
If we haven't said it out loud already.
I know, right? We got to do a lot of believing.
That's all right.
Don't shut the fuck up.
I'll fix stuff in post. She drops my mom's name and the place she works. We gotta have some bleeps in there.
The two things we discussed prior to this, we're not gonna bring up where we work. We're gonna be really careful about names. Like certain names, I'm gonna bring up, like my best friend Brooke, my really good friend Aset. These are people that I know are not gonna care about me mentioning their names, but there are certain people that we got to be careful with. So
yeah,
we just want to respect people's privacy
100%.
and our own privacy
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. So we like to thank you guys all for watching. This has been
and listening.
Episode 1 of Conversations with My Ex, the pilot. The pilot. Stay tuned. We will be dropping episodes every Monday, so be sure to check us out on Mondays. That's when they will hit the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. You name it, it'll be there. And follow us on social media. We'll definitely love to interact with people who listen to this or just people in general. Doesn't matter. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay classy.